Okay, this should be up and running. Did you get a notification on your phone? Okay, let me see if I can see it on my phone. Let me see here. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Let's see if I can see it on here. Now you have one? Okay, it says 2 watching, but no one say anything. If you're here, please say hello. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Oh, hi Zena. There's a delay on the screen for the chat on the software that does the live stream. I almost couldn't get this to work, so a little bit of a stressful moment before this started. Happy Halloween. Hey, Element. Are you peeking out of your box to say hello? That's what I always imagine. Hi, Phantom. Hello. Hello, husband. Hello, Robert. Robert Gao. I don't recognize you if you've been here before. Hello, Robert. Let's see here. Just give me a moment to gather myself. I just did a notification on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not going to do one on Facebook because I can never tell if I get any traffic from Facebook. Robert, I've never seen you before, so how... Oh, and Jorge, hello? Hello. If you're new here, can you... Just out of curiosity, hey, Lindsay, hey. If you're new here, can you please tell me how you found my channel? I'm so curious as to how you found it. Or if you've been here before and just really haven't said anything, you just listen sometimes, that's fine too. But I'm always curious as to how somebody new finds the channel. Like if I post to social media, does it make a difference? Or, you know? Whew. I'm going to give everybody a minute to get here. I almost couldn't get the software to work if you didn't hear me say that. It was stressing me out. I have a whole bunch of stories saved for tonight. The first one's going to be unexplainable experiences. I found a bunch during the week, and I made sure I didn't read them for the channel. Are you guys, has anybody here went to a Halloween party this week? I'm just curious. There's just one house that we pass in town all the time, and every year they have a Halloween party. And I just had to go to the store earlier tonight and pass their house, and they must have had like 30 cars at their house. You're not new. I'm just curious how Robert and Jorge found the channel, or if they've already been here and they just kind of stay on the quiet side. Sometimes people come and watch and they don't say anything, so I was just curious. Welcome to the Halloween special. Even though it's not Halloween yet, I'm sure I'll be reading until it is actually Halloween. I found your channel a while ago from a friend who recommended you. Well, that was nice. Yes, Element, you've been here. I was just watching the MTV Scream show on Netflix. I've never watched that, but I've seen the movie Scream like probably 20 times in the last week or so. Well, it was under suggestions, so I guess I listened to similar stuff like Lazy Masquerade. Oh, cool. Cool. And then one of your videos popped up. Somebody commented on a video of mine from 2016, which is really unusual because I didn't think that anybody would be recommended any of my old videos, and it's when my videos were like really new, and I would read like this, really slow and over dramatically. And the person was like, "Okay, question mark." And then I was asking them, I'm like, "I'm so curious, like, how did you find this video? Because it's from 2016 and I can't even remember the last time that anybody even commented on the video because it was so old." 3 viewers. Well, whoever was here left, okay. Oh man. It'll be a minute before people gather. I did tell people yesterday. I heard they were making a Scream 5. Yeah, I've already seen the trailer for it. I'm excited, but it has a lot to live up to. I hope they don't destroy the franchise with the new one, but it looks pretty good so far. Oh yeah. And it's got, some of the original crew in it. I don't know how many will actually be in it, but I'm sure they want to make it live on forever, just like Halloween. But I think next year will be the last Halloween. I'm chilling tonight. Tomorrow night we're dressing up and having a pizza and horror movie night. Plus we have lots of chocolate for the night. Yeah, my husband went and got 2 enormous bags of Halloween candy yesterday. We have one left. If that tells you where we're at on our blood sugar level. We're going to start reading in just a minute. I just wanted to make sure people had a chance to get here. In February. That's a really weird time. Ghostbusters 3 comes out in November. Like in the middle of November, which I thought was really strange. Tomorrow, scariest thing ever. What? Why'd you delete it? I'm more of a zombie horror type. I watched, even though I didn't pay much attention to it, it's a Bill Murray zombie movie. The Dead Don't Die is from 2019. I've been wanting to see it forever, and AMC had it on the other day, or FX did. Shoot, I think it was FX. But I kept getting distracted during it because I was trying to do something else, so I want to watch it again. So you gonna notice when someone comments on a video? Yep, I do try to respond. If I only respond with a heart, at least I do respond to every single comment. Detroit Lions football on Halloween. They should have to dress up in masks. Well, they dress up every day as football players. They don't need to dress up. I told my husband that we should start a sports talk YouTube channel because he knows everything about sports and I don't know anything. So people could come and laugh at me, but then get the knowledge from him. Sorry, I realized I just took a sip of my tea with the straw in my mouth right next to the microphone, so I'm really sorry about that. Happy almost Halloween to you, Quentin. Wah ah ah. It'd be better if they made Halloween movies that had nothing to do with the original story. Yeah, you mean get an original idea? Yeah, make a completely separate movie on their own? Yeah, my youngest put all the chocolate in bowls and then put them in the pantry and told me to leave it alone until tomorrow night. I already stole a couple of Reese's. The original Halloween 2 sounds really cool. The original Halloween is probably the best. It's my favorite because it's just such a simple concept that's so absolutely terrifying. Okay, so I think I'm going to start reading Fear Crawler. I don't even see him in the chat and he donated. Fear Crawler constantly. Hey, tall guy. Hey. How you feeling today? Xena, how you feeling today, too? How's everybody feeling tonight? Fear Crawler donates $5 to the chat and shares all of my stuff on Twitter, if you guys don't know that. He shares everybody's stuff on Twitter, and he really helps promote it. Wait, Fear Crawler? Or am I thinking of... There's someone I get confused on Twitter. I get Fear Crawler and Crowd Blood confused on Twitter, so I'm so sorry. I'm confusing Fear Crawler with Crowd Blood. I'm so sorry. That's what I was confusing, so. Hey, Ronnie. You're at a party. Hey, have fun. You'll hear it back. Does anybody ever listen to the live streams back? If so, I'm so sorry in advance. Because I'm real loosey-goosey in the chat with the chatter when it comes to a live stream. I'm fine. Not sure if I mentioned last night. I got the results of my test. It was negative. Woo! Good. I think they're kind of hard to tell, really. I think just by how you feel. But we're also rolling into flu season, so that's going to be fun and confusing. All right. Halloween 2 was supposed to take place in a high-rise apartment building years later than the original. Huh. Let's see. So I can only assume my symptoms had come from something else. Ah, bummer, Ronnie. Well, if you listen back, great. If you don't, I get it. Wait, what is this? I have some sort of, okay. You do? That's surprising. I never take them down because I don't know if anybody listens back to them. So that's really nice, Fear Crawler. Please join us in the chat if you're here. I don't know if you just came and did that and then left. But all right, so we are at 10:16. I'm going to start reading. We're going to start with this first set of stories is 17 people to share their most unexplainable stories. Zena, I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. Oh, on a Sunday? I have been stuffed up from my allergies since September. Oh, Monday. Got ya. All right. On that note, I will check the chat in a minute, but I'm going to start reading. So here we go. First one up is their first confirmed dead patient came back to life. I'm an ER doctor currently. When I was in med school, we had a chronic respiratory failure patient who was DNR, DNI, do not resuscitate, do not intubate. During our morning rounds, a nurse called us to his bedside for a vital sign check. Guy was deader than a block of wood. No pulse, no breathing, pupils fixed and dilated, etc. My senior resident was like, "This is a great chance for you to confirm your first dead body." We write up his death note, make arrangements. An hour later, we get a call by the same nurse. This guy's alive and talking to me. Sure enough, homeboy's wide awake and chatty Cathy. He got discharged a few days later. I kept tabs on him until I finished med school. He lived at least another year and a half. What? Wow. That's crazy. The enthusiasm from the other one about confirming their first dead body is a bit much for me. But I can see how someone would get excited about being able to teach that to someone. Oh, okay. Yeah, have one for everyone. All right, the next one. They saw a bird-sized human. A friend and I saw a teeny tiny person. This was in the 90s. There was a really nice pub about a mile from where my friend Jason lived, and the walk there from his house took us along one of the canals. This was in England, the West Midlands to be precise. One evening, I'd gone over to his house. We walked over to the pub, had a couple of pints, something to eat, and were on our way back. It wasn't late. Early evening, still had a decent amount of light outside. We're walking down the track beside the canal when we hear a splash in the water behind us. Turning around, we see about 40 feet away the ripples of something moving through the canal toward the bank. Now, both of us were keen bird watchers at the time, so we were guessing it was something like a coot or a moorhen? Sorry about that. So we were both pretty shocked when what looked like a tiny little man about 8 inches tall climbed out of the water, shook himself off, and dashed into the hedgerow. We were both frozen for a few moments before we headed to the spot where the little man got out of the water. Didn't find any trace of him. We got back to Jason's place and spent a couple of hours trying to rationalize it, but there was no other animal or bird we could think of that might mistake for a tiny person. What? Does anyone ever believe? Where's me Lucky Charms? That's smaller than a Hey Peter. Let's see here. I'm sorry. Do people, like, do they ever, they didn't disclose whether they were drinking or had like any kind of little special treats that evening. I don't know.
Candy bars.
gosh, their overwhelming fear saved their life. This is a dark one. Ooh, buckle in. It happened when I was around 11, when my parents and I went on a trip to Austria and visited a theme park. In the theme park was a jumpy thing. There was a 1 meter, 2 meter, and 3 meter pole, and you could jump down this on this huge cushion. I wanted to try and went straight up the highest pole. I've jumped down those poles before a few times, but that time I was just terrified. I don't know why, but all of a sudden I was shaking and scared for my life. It was this deep kind of fear that I'd never felt before. My mind was telling me not to jump, which didn't make sense because I just jumped there and it was so fun. So I let the kid behind me go first. She died. The cushion had a leak and she broke her neck. She was 9 years old. I climbed down and will never forget this. If I had jumped, I would be gone. And I can't stop feeling like fate wanted me on that day. And not her. Oh my gosh. I'll do voice requests. There's an expansion pack on free trial for The Sims 4. I don't know what Sims version I have. I'll have to look at it later. But it's Get Famous. I'm failing to maintain interest. The garden one I got. Oh, you guys are talking about. Okay. All right. This one says their gut feeling saved the whole family. And if you guys have any requests, yeah, you can put them in the chatter. Yeah, go for it, Element. If you want me to read it in a certain accent, go ahead. Their gut feeling saved the whole family. I've had this feeling I was much older. 16. My father and brother were both in bed earlier. They had been sick and had taken NyQuil, so they were asleep hard. My aunt had had cancer, and my mother was staying with her to help. I called my mother and told her, I can't sleep. I feel like I'm going to perish. Like I just know if I go to sleep, I won't wake up. My mom convinced me I was just stressed out. It was a bad year. She told me to just sleep on the sofa. I tried, but I couldn't shake the feeling. Eventually I went in bed and dozed off. I woke up to flames. The house next to ours had fully caught fire. My bedroom was closest to the property next door, and my roof had caught fire as well. I got my family out of the house and got the fire department there. Had I slept on the sofa by the time I had realized the house was on fire, we wouldn't have had a clear path out. Dad called Mom and told her about the fire, and she lost it. Never again has she tried to rationalize my gut feeling. Holy crap! Wow! Okay. To just talk in your normal voice? Yeah, I am just talking in my normal voice right now. Yeah. Actually, I'm trying to talk a little quieter because this microphone's really close to my mouth, and I'm sure it's like it's too close. Playing Supernatural while listening to the stream. Free, but if you expires. Oh, okay. Just reading the chat. Yeah, this is my normal voice. Sorry. Sorry if it sounds fake, but this is my regular voice. Yeah. So, sorry to disappoint you. Let's see. This one says their father made sure to say goodbye. When I was growing up, my dad and I would sit for hours and watch dragonflies. He and my mom divorced when I was 13, and he moved out of state and couldn't really support himself and a kid. So my mom got custody and moved us to a different state. The invitation was always open for him to visit, but he never did. We'd talk on the phone a few times a week and stay caught up. He got a rare kind of cancer in his vocal cords and was going to have something surgically removed in there. He called me a few days after the surgery and told me things were looking good, but they were keeping him in the hospital because he had a fever after the surgery. I knew at that point this was our last conversation. The next day I was sitting in my truck before work and with the window open a dragonfly landed on my hand. It was November, so there shouldn't have been any around. It felt like my dad was standing there. About 2 minutes later, I got a call from his friend who was staying with him at the hospital that he had passed about 5 minutes before I saw the dragonfly. Oh my gosh. Oh, you don't want me to do accents. Gotcha. Let's see what happens. Does anybody else have a different accent that pops out when they get mad? I get like a twang to my voice. But if I'm really mad, then I start to like stutter and then I get mad at myself. It's frustrating.
So you're a Telecaster?
What?
Twang, so you're a Telecaster?
Sure, honey. Sure. Now let's see. Their father saw a man standing outside his window. My father has recounted this story to me exactly twice, and even though it happened to him some 40 years ago, I could still see the goosebumps on his arms when he told the story. So this is his dad's story. So when I was young, probably 12 or 13, my family lived in a small residential suburb. There was a street lamp right across the street from us that would shine into our living room at night, so every night before we went to bed, my father would close the curtains. One night I woke up around 2 o'clock in the morning and went to the kitchen to get some water. As I passed through the living room, I noticed a beam of light from the street lamp had made it through a small gap between the curtains, and I had the urge to peek through. Oh no. Standing under the street lamp was a tall man with a black cap, silver skin, and massive eyes. Those huge bug eyes that you see in alien movies. He was standing there motionless, staring right at me. I quickly ducked down behind my father's recliner. There was no way he could see me. The house was completely dark, and I barely moved the curtains as I looked through. After a few minutes of sitting on the floor behind the recliner, I grew curious to see if the man had passed. I looked through the curtains again. Pressed firmly against the other side of glass, inches away from my face, was the silver man with bug eyes staring right at me. After a moment frozen in terror, I ran through the house toward my father's room and woke him up quickly, telling him what happened. He grabbed his shotgun and went outside to look around. He didn't find anyone, but there was a set of fresh footprints in the dew that had been collecting on the lawn. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm sure that was probably somebody pranking him. What's it say? I missed the first 13 minutes of the stream and now I don't know what's going on. What? Just push the red thing all the way to the end where it makes it say live. And now you're not going to know that. I do, my Hawaiian accent comes out. I get told I have some kind of accent that I just have in general at times. I start to stutter whenever I try to speak because I want to pronounce English perfectly, but I can't. I guess that's why people speak with accents. I'm Canadian, so according to most Americans, Canadians have an accent. Yeah. And sorry about that, eh? I'm sure I sound pretty nasally. Okay, this one, sometimes I've never read these stories, so when you hear them, I'm hearing them for the first time too. This one is titled "Their Wife Cannot Lose a Radio Contest." I don't know if this is going to be scary. It sounds like it's going to be funny anyway. My wife used to win radio contests pretty much whenever she wanted to, and she won a lot. Why didn't she play the lottery? Anyway, like a lot. She had no particular technique. This was across multiple radio stations in several cities, and I have no explanation. Here's some examples. As a teenager, she bought her back to school clothes each year by winning shopping gift cards on the radio. When our daughter was a baby, my wife won a year's supply of diapers, video games, t shirts, and other items. Years later, she won us dozens of tickets to concerts from KROQ in Los Angeles. The ultimate was one time when my brother and his wife were having dinner with us. KROQ was playing in the background, and the DJ says, Caller 106.7 wins tickets to Acoustic Christmas. My wife casually mentions that we can't go, so she hasn't bothered to win tickets. Sister-in-law says, What do you mean you haven't bothered to win tickets? Wife replies, If we could go, I'd win the tickets, but we have something else planned and can't go, so I haven't. Sister-in-law says, You can't just win tickets, it's Acoustic Christmas. Yes, I can. Sister-in-law slowly and a bit sarcastically says, Well, we can go, so why don't you win us the tickets? She's like, Okay, no problem. About an hour later, the very next time the DJ says again the same thing, the wife gets up, casually walks across the room to the phone, picks it up and starts dialing, looks up and says, Caller 47, dials. 73, dials. 89, dials. Holds out the phone and it says 106.7. Sister-in-law gets up, incredulous, and takes the phone. The next thing we hear over the radio is, Caller 106.7, you win. Followed by sister-in-law saying, What? This is not KROQ, but it was, and my wife won one of the hardest tickets to get in Los Angeles, competing against the rest of the city on demand on the very first try. Oh my gosh. He better get his wife scratch-off tickets for every single holiday, anniversary, and birthday. Holy crap. I would still tell anyone that the best part for The Sims 4 is get together. Okay, Duchess, I can hardly hear you. Can you hear me now? I had moved the thing away from my mouth because I was afraid I was talking too loud into it. Can you hear me now? Let me turn it up a little bit. How's that? Oh, you do? Cool. Americans think they own English. I mean, English didn't come from America. It came from Europe, so because it's literally English, which means it came from England. Is that not what it means? Hello, Laura. Hello. Homegirl had amazing luck. My friend used to win all kinds of stuff like that. Like one time she won concert tickets. She won a patio set, a stereo, a barbecue, and something else. It was one summer when she was pregnant and she didn't have anything else to do, so all she could do was, yeah. I wish they would have disclosed what the lady's name was, because that would be amazing. Okay, this one says, they got a message from someone special. Can you hear me now, everybody? Zena said she could barely hear me, so I'm just curious. Is it good?
I can hear fine.
Okay.
I can hear fine.
Well, you're sitting right next to me, so you should be able to hear me. What? What'd you say?
106.7 KROQ.
KROQ. I need to call someone. Guess I'll be away from listening for a while. I'll have to listen to the myth stories later. Okay. All right. They got a message from someone special. When I was a freshman in high school, I started getting really into physics, and my friend, now my significant other, took me to this palm reading tarot card booth at a Renaissance fair. When I sat down in front of her, she greeted me, then looked behind me, then back at me and said, "You have 4 people behind you." I went into her tent alone. I don't remember much of the reading, just that she mentioned African violets because one of the spirits behind me had some connection to them. I didn't really think much of it because I didn't know anybody who liked African violets, and I forgot all about it until the following year. The next year, I went to the same booth. Different lady. My significant other sat with me. She asked me if I knew anything about African violets, completely unprovoked. I said no. She said I should get them for the spirit behind me. I left the reading feeling really weird, but again I just shrugged it off. 6 months later, I was at a Home Depot with my dad. I separated from my dad to look at the flowers and came across some African violets. I bought them, put them in a new pot, and set them on my windowsill when I got home. 2 minutes later, my mom comes in and asks me if I got anything from the store. African violets, I told her. My mom smiled and said, "You know, those were your grandmother's favorite flowers." My grandmother passed when I was 11, and when I went back to the booth the following year, they didn't mention the flowers. I know it's not creepy, but it still kind of weirds me out. That's a really cool story. How odd would it be if you go to the Renaissance Fair and the person that's doing the tarot card reading, both year, different person, mentions the same thing? At least you know it's a valid person. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. British English is the original, and then Americans make fun of it. I don't make fun of it. If you ever try to read, like, an English version of a story, like if you try to read the original Pride and Prejudice, it can get quite difficult to understand what you're reading just because of the way, but no one even speaks that way anymore. Hello, Dave. Hello. All right, let's see. Their dog sensed an unnatural presence. I was homesick sometime during high school. I was sitting in my computer chair playing Skyrim when my dog, who was usually content by himself and never one for affection, came into my room, laid down staring at my door. Me being alone and this not being his normal course of action unnerved me a bit, so I closed my door and went back to playing. Not 3 minutes later, I hear the voice of my mother calling my name, clear as day. She's a school teacher, so she should have been at work. I try to be as quiet as possible and lower my TV all the way down to make sure I didn't attract whatever I heard. And I could hear more clearly, only to hear the bedroom door upstairs slam shut. Sat in my room all day long in silence until my mom came home. I asked her if she was home earlier, and she denied it. One of the scariest moments of my life. I mean, it's unexplainable, but come on, man. They foretold an unfortunate event. When I was a teenager, I got really into fortune telling as a form of entertainment, but I put on a good show. My best friend bought me this pack of Titania's oracle cards. I can't, and my brain's not processing that name. I practiced with these by doing readings for friends. I really liked the artwork on them, and people always read what they wanted to it. So one day I did a 2 week ahead reading for my friend Richard. The man and the dog came up. And I said this indicated a close male friend. Then the coffin card. I say, don't worry. This usually means a period of waiting. It only means death if it's drawn next to the scythe card. I shouldn't have told him that, because the next card was a scythe card. The reading basically said a close male friend would die within the next 2 weeks. I tried to backpedal and said it could only mean a new phase in your friendship, but I could see why it would upset him. I felt awful. This was supposed to be fun. I caught up with Richard a couple weeks later. His best friend passed away. He and I drifted apart as friends after that. It was a horrible coincidence. Oh my gosh, that's why you don't play with stuff like that. It's not a toy. It's not a toy. Perfectly placed cable saved their life. Had an accident when I fell asleep driving. Yikes. I went off the road when I reached a T, headed straight into a wooded area going about 50 miles an hour, but ran into a telephone pole's guy's wire, heavy cable driven into the ground at a 45-degree angle to the pole. Well, that cable was a godsend because it absorbed most of the kinetic energy and significantly slowed me down. To give you an idea of how much energy it absorbed, it cut into the front end of my car about 2 feet, slicing the battery in half in the process. It also pivoted me around 90 degrees, so I was sideways when I went down a hill into the woods, rolled the car 3 times, and ended up on the roof. Completely missed all of the trees. I extracted myself from the crash, gathered my stuff, and walked away completely unharmed. I was wearing my seatbelt. I walked home, which was about 2 miles away. This was 2 o'clock in the morning, pre-cell phone. After I got home, I noticed about midway on my right thigh, a perfect 1-inch square of fabric was gone from my khaki pants. I'm talking about a perfect square. The edges were so clean, like it was carefully carved out with a scalpel. No cuts or scrapes on the skin of my thigh. It was so surreal and creeped me out. I believe that after I pass, I will be presented with this 1-inch piece of khaki fabric and be told it wasn't your time. Seems like they would go back and have some more explanation for that. I had 4 beers. Wow. I would not be able to conjugate a sentence if I had 4 beers, cats. No way could I be typing. Well, I mean, I would be typing, but it would be like gibberish. There are photos of them at a party they didn't attend. Dun dun dun. When I was young, 6 to 8, not really sure, my parents had this apartment building they rent out near our house, and one of the tenants was a couple. The wife's parents were also our neighbors, and they lived a block away from us. I used to play with the wife's younger brother and would hang out at the couple's apartment. It was around the couple's son's birthday, and I think it was his first because I remember they were making a big deal about it and were talking about it for weeks. They were going to hold it at the wife's parents' house, which wasn't far from home. So I asked my parents if I could go. I remember them indirectly saying no, and I guess in a joking, teasing kind of way told me they were going to serve ducks instead of chicken. I hated ducks as a kid. I remember clearly being really bummed out about it for days. A few days after the party, I was hanging out at the apartment and they were gushing about the party's pictures that just got developed. I was like, man, I wish I was there. Then the wife says, what do you mean? You were. Look, here you are. And she shows me the pictures. There I was. I'm not sure I'm not remembering it wrong, because it had been bothering me all this time. I remember asking my aunt if I went, and she even said no. But my friend, the younger brother, told me I was there, and we even played. I don't remember attending the party at all. That would creep me out. Hey, Spooky Boo. I want some beer. Yeah, too bad you can't virtually do that. Probably in the future. I wonder how long in the future before you can do that. Don't you think it would taste funny if you teleport beer to someone else? Like, would it taste staticky? Would there be glass in it? I don't know. I think about it a lot. I watched The Fly a couple weeks ago. It really messes with you when you think about teleportation. Anyways, this one's called They Shared a Dream with Their Sister That Predicted a Future Diagnosis. So this happened over 5 years ago now. My sister, 9 at the time, and I, 14 at the time, shared a room with our beds next to each other. Normally our beds were about 4 feet apart, but they ended up being directly next to one another. Probably because at the time she was constantly doing gymnastics on her bed, which would push the mattress. That night, I dreamt of a glass doll with long, dark hair. I remember feeling like I needed to protect it. I tried to keep it safe, promising it would be okay. But as I said those words, the doll's hair began falling out. I dropped the doll and it shattered. With the help of doctors, the doll was glued back together and her hair grew back. When I woke up, I felt like crying. I didn't understand why I had the dream. I noticed my head had left my pillow at some point, and it was against my sister's head. When she finally woke up, she told me about her dream. The same exact dream I had. And by this point, I was freaked out, but she didn't believe me when I told her. I guess she thought I was messing with her. 6 months later, my sister was diagnosed with cancer. She ended up losing all her hair, and like in the dream, her hair grew back and she got better. She doesn't remember this happening, and I'm still confused about it all. In a way, I'm thankful for the dream because I got to somewhat emotionally brace myself for what was about to come. Ooh. GMM wine beer? Fly beer. Wine beer? I don't have beer, but I have wine in the fridge. Star Trek replicator? Oh, man. Let's see. Their great aunt got a call from her deceased husband. A couple of years ago, my great uncle passed away. After the funeral, a group of close family and I went out to dinner with my great aunt who just lost her husband. While we were eating, she got a phone call and looked extremely pale. Answered it, then hung up. It was from my great uncle, and no one was on the other side. His phone was at her house with no one home. Definitely freaked everyone at the table out. Ooh. Yikes. They saw their brother's doppelganger inside the house. I was sitting in my room reading a book, facing my open door. Saw my brother walk past into his bedroom next to mine and heard him close the door. 30 seconds later, my dad comes up to my room and says, "Where's your brother?" I say, "In his room." "No, he's not." My dad continues to look absolutely horrified. "Your brother's not home." We check his room. It's empty. We both saw the same whatever it was walk into my brother's room. Still gives me goosebumps. Where was your brother? Why don't these people tell the rest of the story? It's infuriating. I want to know what happened. They saw someone else inside the house. Let's see. My parents and I were house sitting for the neighbors and feeding their dog and stuff. And one time we were there. I was chilling in the living room and saw someone go up the stairs. I assumed it was my dad because he had a pair of black dress shoes on that was similar to the ones my dad had worn to work. A minute later, I go into the kitchen and my dad is in the room with my mom, talking. And moreover, he's wearing sandals. I have no idea who it was because there was 100% no one else supposed to be in the house at the time. Nothing was stolen. And when the neighbors got back, so I doubt it was someone who broke in. That story was confusing. And I don't understand it. Let's see. This one says they remember living in an apartment no one else does. So I was 8 at the time and my dad was in the military. So we moved a lot. I distinctly remember an entire 3-month period of living in an apartment while we were moving around. I can remember the entire layout, the things I did and others said, various things. The weird part? No one else was there. My brother and my parents remembers it. And no matter how much I described to them the things they did, said, or showed them items that we bought while we lived there, they'd just seem incapable of remembering it. And whenever I ask questions like, "Well, where did you buy that from then?" Or "Where were we that spring then?" I never get a straight answer. Or even an offhand answer. They always just dodge the question. Whoa. Dun dun dun. Someone fell asleep next to me. I'm not sleeping. Ooh, let's click on that one. Sometimes when I'm reading these, one leads to another. This one is delivery drivers describe the most bizarre deliveries they've ever made, so this should be interesting. Some people I am confusing and they don't understand me. Join the club. We don't have jackets yet, but if you guys have a suggestion, we can make a jacket and then, let's get it going. We are the strange and unusual. Sounds like the parents are hiding something. Dun dun dun. Yeah, it sounds like it. Creepy. Let's see. Delivery drivers describe bizarre deliveries they've made. Okay, I peeked at this the other day, and the first one is kind of messed up, so hopefully the rest of them will be too. He's just resting his eyes. Yeah, you'll know because you'll hear him very loudly breathing or snoring.
Work hard.
Yeah, okay. I know. No one's saying you don't. Okay? Okay. All right. This first one up, this is the pizza delivery ones. Right? I'm sorry, delivery drivers. So I guess they could be delivering anything. I need to take a drink. I'm going to move the microphone away from my mouth so you don't hear me slurp on my straw. ASMR delivery drivers. The Royal Court of the Duchess Jackets. That sounds too fancy. Too fancy for the realm of people that I'm in. Hey, Elena. Greetings from Washington. What time is it here? So is it 7:51 on the East Coast? Members only jackets. Well, if it's member only jackets, then I have to bedazzle them all green. Those things are going to be bedazzled 100%. The cuff, collar, sleeves, back and front. All right, first up. Man orders pizza and then unalives himself. So, I work at a Pizza Hut in high school, or I worked at a Pizza Hut in high school. Our delivery guy went out and was gone for the next 3 hours. This was before cell phones, and we didn't know what happened, so I had to take over for deliveries. He shows back up, and we all ask him where he's been because we're way behind schedule now. Apparently, someone had ordered a pizza to one of the dormitories on the Air Force Base and left the door cracked open. Naturally, he pushed the door open to give what he expected to be a drunk airman his pizza. Instead, the airman had unalived himself and was passed. And that's how he wanted to be discovered. Our driver was out so long because of the police reports and whatnot. Oh my gosh. Hey Tank, the Duchess derangement crew. Remember when we were told not to get into cars with strangers? Be careful with meeting people from the internet, but now we order an Uber driver off the internet and get a ride? I don't. I think we could do like a 3-hour stream just on Uber horror stories. From the driver's perspective and the passenger's perspective. I've seen so many girls on TikTok say that they have to lie to the Uber driver so that he doesn't show back up at their house. It's really creepy. All right, let's see here. This one says driver made violently ill by a customer's scent. The worst delivery I've ever had was about 2 years ago. I got to the apartment, knocked on the door, and heard a voice from inside tell me to come in. Yikes. Okay, no big deal. No, that would be a big deal. Anyway, probably her hand full with kids or something. So I opened the door, walk in and made the biggest mistake and took a deep breath. The smell was unforgettable. It smelled like rancid, decomposing flesh that had been sitting in the sun for days, while simultaneously being kept hydrated. I continued to walk with only a small falter in my step and took the pizza and the pop to the lady in the chair. The closer I walked to her, the worse the smell got. After what seemed like years, she finally handed me the money, gave her back change, more than I should have, and walked out of the apartment. As soon as the door was closed behind me, I puked. Puked until I was dry heaving and still puking. Eventually, I made it to my car, but I could still smell it. It was on my clothes. I did the only logical thing I could. I stripped hoodie, shirt, pants, socks, shoes, all tossed it in my trunk, drove back to the pizza place, got out of my car, grabbed my clothes and walked in like a boss. The other driver staring at me in my boxers went to the back of the store and did laundry. That one was funny. I'm sorry. It was gross but funny. The internet, a serial killer's playground. My hubby and I have had conversations about that, from stalking with vans and now dating apps. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know what? It's funny. East Coast is probably what? Soda. Michigan, it's pop. But if you go like southeast, like I think it starts at what? Like, does Ohio start with it? When they call everything a Coke?
My cousin's called Pop.
Well, that's because they grew up here, though. But it's like everything's a Coke. So if you want
Or Dr. Pepper.
like a Sprite, they'll say, "What kind of Coke do you want?" I smelled that smell before when doing a wellness check on a tenant from turnout passed away in the unit for over a week. Okay, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I've told you this story before on this channel. But across the street from us, it's like kitty corner, there's a neighborhood, and in that neighborhood, this is so gross. Apparently this guy had passed away and nobody knew it for a year. So the story goes he didn't really talk to his neighbors in the first place, and he had lived with his mother or father or something, and the year prior to him passing away his parents passed away. So literally he would come and go in his car from his garage. So he didn't have a car parked in the driveway ever. And the only reason anyone ever figured out that he passed away was when at some point something happened with his bank account. Like all of his bills were automatically like set up for automatic payment, and something had happened with either his electric bill or something, and he wasn't close to, I guess he had one child that didn't live near him, and someone lives in that house. I walk my dog through that neighborhood and someone lives there now. I'm not sure how they do it. The house is really cute. Someone bought it, fixed it up, and sold it. But, like, do they know? Do they know that someone literally evaporated? I've never looked at, like, how did no one know? How did no one notice for a year? They've never seen that neighbor in a year. After 3 months, I'd be like, man, I haven't seen him in a while. What did you say?
Who hasn't run home in their boxers? I've done it several times.
I don't think I've rode home in my underwear before. I'm going through the bank of memories in my head, so I make sure that's not a lie.
Sometimes you work in the rain and you get all wet. You don't have a choice.
I think I just would ride home in my wet clothes. Just because you're a guy, you can get away with that. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Ugh. Use the same company. It's sad. Whenever I tell a story like that, especially when it's close, I always wonder, like, even in these stories, if it's something bad, like, did their family member just happen to come upon my channel and hear their story about their life on my channel? It's never happened, but I'm like waiting for it because I have so many videos out. The odds are it has to happen at some point, right? Whew. In Hawaii, it's soda.
I forget they just had all pineapple drinks in Hawaii.
Hawaii is just, it's America.
I know, but why would you want to drink it?
Hawaii is getting destroyed because a lot of developers are buying tons of the property and trying to make it like a resort, but they're like building on sacred land. But that's a whole other video. It's Coke. Mostly soda. All right, let's see. Well, let's see. All right, woman gets pizza guy's number, texts nudes, then ghosts him. These are these supposed to be scary? Because that's just funny. Something's wrong with the rest of this. Like, it's like it's not showing up or something. All right, so I delivered for a pizza place. Got an order for a house further than our usual delivery radius. I pull up, knock on the door, and wait. and wait and wait, then knock again. Nothing. So I call when a woman answers the phone sounding groggy. Oh, sorry, I'll be right there. She opens the door, robe completely open with a slender, naked body underneath. And all I could muster was, "You look nice." That was enough for a thanks, cutie. She paid me and sent me back on my way. Minutes later, I get a text. "What's your name?" So we begin a little text chat, which, after a little chatter, ends up with her sending me 3 or 4 nudes. Not that I didn't want to see her in her open robe. A day goes by and I figured I'd send her a text. Her response was, "Sorry, who's this?" I respond with the old, "I delivered pizza to your house." The rest of the story, hold on, I have to refresh the page because for some reason it didn't load the rest of the story. So hold on, sorry. In Estonia, we call it lemonade, except it's not lemonade, as you know. You call pop or soda lemonade? So what, just out of curiosity, when you want a lemonade, what do you say? I'm just curious. Yeah, for some reason, the rest of these on this delivery driver one aren't loading. I don't know what happened. It just ends. I don't know what happened. Canada and America have different version of Smarties. In Canada, the U.S. version of Smarties we call Rockets. Our Smarties are candy-coated chocolate like M&Ms. Oh, if you say nudes don't scare you, remember that the demons in horror films tend to be naked. That's true. Well, it won't load the rest of the story. I don't know what happened. I'll come back to it. Aw. I know someone's going to be pretty disappointed. Dun, dun, dun. All right, this one is teachers describe the scariest things they've ever confiscated. Or, well, at least maybe we're going into scary territory. Yeah, I don't know. It's still, for some reason, that one just, didn't load properly. I'll come back to it. I'll check it later, but the little thing's spinning on it, but the rest of the tabs are fine. It doesn't make any sense, Element. I'm so sorry to leave you hanging about the nudes.
What about movies and it freezes?
You were sinners. Jesus can see you.
I got a quarter tank going.
What? Don't say that on the stream. God. Yeah. Oh my God. All right, so these ones look really short, but it says teachers describe the scariest things they have ever confiscated. This one says a 3rd grader made his own shiv. In a 3rd grader's locker, my mom found a chisel tip Sharpie. It was hollowed out, and a scissor blade was inserted into the marker case. Duct tape was used to pad and hold the blade into place. The kid said he was going to use it on another student. Holy crap! What? She thought bringing a body part was cool. Human finger. She insisted she found it by the ravine and just thought it was cool, so she kept it until she decided what to do with it. But that means she'd either found a lone finger or she was leaving out a part of the story. I'm pretty sure the kid probably found a lone finger. I don't know what the teacher was implying. Think she cut it off of someone? The world is going to end and this is why? The stream? I would say climate change is probably a bigger factor than the live stream. But, I'm not a scientist. This one says she was tracking her teachers' lives. A student came running to me during a break once and wanted to drag me to a class to show me something. I went along, and once there, he directed me to a student's desk. There was an open notebook lying on the desk detailing my full name, birth date, address, license plate, and other insane stuff. We immediately took her to the office after she returned. Police were called and they confiscated her phone. She had an entire album titled Teachers or Professors, and quite literally, Every single teacher she had was in there. I was in 4 pictures, some of which she took secretly in class. The others were old. Pics from my old Facebook. That was creepy, to be honest. What? Strawberry lemonade? Arnold Palmer. Side note, last year I bought one of those blow up Patrick Star costumes and it's now disappeared into the abyss of our house. I looked all over our house today for it. It's just gone. Thought it would be funny to walk around tomorrow going, wee woo, wee woo. Anyway, a 3rd grader brought nail clippers, but not for nail clipping. So I teach 4th grade. My 3rd year teaching, I had this girl in my class from Saudi Arabia. The first few months in my class, she was very quiet and reserved. But as the year went on, she opened up and quickly became one of my favorite students. She was funny and sarcastic and started playing with us at recess. I always play football with my students, and she was great at juking kids out. She was great at making a quick cut, getting away from everybody, and just burning them with her speed. So one day we're out playing. There's a 3rd grade class out at recess. This one kid asks if he can play, and I tell him sure. My Saudi Arabian girl jukes him out once and scores and gets this 3rd grader really mad. I tell him to cool it, and we're just playing for fun. Her team gets the ball again eventually, and I throw it to her. She jukes, then the kid scores again. She jukes the kid, and she scores again. He runs up to her, and then she runs over to me, and she looks horrified. She tells me that the little boy just pulled out a knife on her and told her that if she juked him out again, that he was going to stab her in the throat. I'm a male, but if anybody messes with my students, I go full mama bear on them. So I immediately yell, "Hey!" and start marching over to this 3rd grader. He takes off running over to the table where his jacket is and picks it up. His teacher is staring at me confused, and I start interrogating him. He tells me that he didn't tell her that and that she's lying and that he doesn't have anything. He empties his pockets for us and says he doesn't have anything. I notice he's holding his jacket pretty tight, so we tell him to give it to us. He starts bawling and hands his jacket to us. He had torn a hole in the interior lining and had a hidden pair of nail clippers. We showed them to my student, and she said that he had pulled out the filer, and had a hook on the end, and that's what he threatened her with. He got taken into custody and was expelled from school. Holy moly! Wait, a bunch of these didn't load correctly. I'm not really sure why. All right, let's redo that one. Ooh. Okay, for some reason that one stopped loading correctly. Well, the one about the boobs came back, loaded back up, right?
Yay. Movies.
The acidity and tartness, Kimberly. It's just a game. Calm down. I know, right? All right, so back to the pizza guy story because the other thing's not loading now, but the delivery guy one's reloaded. So we're back to that. If you're listening, we're jumping all over the place here. If you can keep up. All right. So I'll refresh your memory. Guy delivers the pizza. Lady was naked. Blah blah blah. Day goes by. I figured I'd send her a text, and her response was, "Sorry, who's this?" And I respond with the old, "I delivered pizza to your house." She then directs me to adultfriendfinder.com and tells me to set up an account and message her there. That's some good advertising tactics. I didn't sign up or text her back. I was just kind of weirded out by the whole situation. She must send a lot of full frontal nudes out via text. Oh my gosh. She probably has a bunch of young people that deliver stuff to her house and then she gets them addicted to her. And now they're all paying her a monthly service fee. Oh my gosh. Wow. Creepy. She's probably gonna end up in jail though. Some of those delivery people are not even of age, I think. I don't know. I would never try to do something like that, so
You should call the Geek Squad. They could probably hook her up with some tips on the internet.
oh my gosh.
Decent tips.
What happened? Let's see. Driver finds out kid paying for his pizza has been left home alone for days. I delivered pizza at a bunch of different places. You get regulars, like any restaurant, people who order all the time and usually order the same thing. There was one delivery I would always make to a house, and a little girl, maybe 10, would always answer the door and pay for the pizza. That wasn't too weird. Kids like to pay for pizzas a lot. The orders were sometimes early in the evening, sometimes late. One evening, I delivered a pizza to her and she didn't have enough money. I suggested she go get one of her parents, and she said her mom wasn't there, and her daddy wasn't alive anymore. I asked her when her mom might be back, thinking she ran out somewhere, and the girl said Thursday. It was Monday. I said, "Are you sure?" And she said, "Yes, her mommy's boyfriend lives in a nearby town and she leaves on Monday and comes back on Thursdays most of the time." I asked her about grandma, family, any friends. No, 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 and no. So I sort of sat there wondering, what do I do now? I think about giving her the pizza and saying, "Here you go, bye." After one of those probably only 10 seconds but feels like an eternity moments, I asked if I could borrow her phone. This was pre-cell phone. I called the police and sat on the steps with the little girl until the police arrived. She talked about her cat that ran away and her little ponies, gave me a friendship bracelet, and I noticed her hair and clothes were dirty. I thought about this poor girl just sitting in her house for days at a time, completely alone. The police come, I tell them my story, and then told me to leave. Not sure whatever happened to her. No pizza orders from that house anymore. I would check all of the orders whenever I worked. Aww, that one was sad. Alright, then that's it for that one's loading. Wow. I don't know what's up with these. Maybe because I saved them too early in the week. Let's see, I'm pretty sure that little brat will end up using real knives on people eventually if he hasn't already. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't know that one was going to be sad. If you're the girl that happened to and you listen to the story, please tell us what happened to you. Pretty smart little kid, though. Gotta give her that. She probably is like a super successful person now. Me too. Okay, so the teacher's one isn't loading anymore. I'm just gonna undo it because those were all short anyway. This one, because now the delivery one only went to that one sad one, and then it didn't load anymore. Like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's up with that. Okay. So I've got 19 people reveal shocking secrets that would ruin their lives. Oh my gosh. I almost read this one for the channel, but I thought I'd save it for tonight. The IT guy knows all of your secrets. I don't know why this one got darker all of a sudden, but IT guy here. It's amazing what people will do on their computers and say in their emails, despite having to sign a waiver that all computer activity at work is monitored and recorded. I have half the company's banking, social media, and personal email account info and passwords. I know who is secretly banging who at the office behind their spouse's back. I know who is cybering at work and jerking it in the bathroom almost daily. Wow, this one's gross. At least they tell their intimate chat partner that they're running off to the bathroom to do that. I personally haven't felt the need to check the validity of that one. I know when people are having marital problems, financial problems. I even know one person here had their children taken away because of a social worker found coke in their house. I know who was falsely filtering money. I know when people get fired for complete BS reasons, like they just wanted to replace them with someone younger and nicer on the eyes. And I know who my boss is buying Xanax and Vicodins from. Basically, I have a treasure trove of my coworkers' secrets. I won't actively do anything with this info, but it's nice knowing I have the evidence there if something ever were to happen. Whoa. If you're an IT person, you have all the power. I swear. I swear. Yeah, I almost did start reading this for you guys for the channel, and I thought, no, I'm gonna save this, okay? Because I did read a couple of these and I stopped myself. This guy lives in a bunker on someone else's property. So 2.5 years ago, I was in dire financial straits, so I sold my home to keep my struggling business afloat. I neglected to tell the owners that they have a 800 square foot bunker on the property that I built about 7 years ago. The bunker that I've called home since I sold it. The entrance to it is well hidden, but I still come and go very early and very late in the day. I'm a single man who keeps to myself. I'm now in a situation where I could move somewhere else, but I love this hidden paradise so much. What? That's crazy. How could they not notice that? Well, I don't know. Do you know any people in tech? I bet you would tell that. I bet you they would tell you that everybody's doing something shady at work. I swear. I swear. You know how, like, I don't know. You just know that people are doing something, but you have no proof. But the tech guy is going to have all the proof because people, for some reason, put everything in emails. Why do they do that? Maybe just don't be a crappy person. Dang. I don't know. They got way too much time on their hands. I bet you, like the COVID when they had to shut down, I bet you weeded a lot of people out like that. I bet you really did weed a lot of people out of the workforce like that. That just went to work and just screwed around all day. Didn't really do any work. Just took from the company. All right, this one says running a fake fancy cake business. So I run a cake business, charging people hundreds for wedding cakes. Every last one is made using Pillsbury cake mix I buy for $1 a box at Walmart. I suck at baking. Every time I've tried to make a cake from scratch, it sucked. But baking is somehow my whole deal. My friends call me the cake girl. It's my whole life. It's like my whole life is a lie. People compliment my cakes all the time, telling me how delicious they are, telling me it's so much better than box mix cake, telling me that they could never bake a cake so delicious. Well, guess what? For $1 they can too. Just add oil, eggs, and water. In my defense, I love cake decorating. I make all the frostings and fondant from scratch. I just hate baking cakes. I base my prices mostly on the decoration of the cakes and not of the cake itself, if that makes sense. Still, no one knows about this except my husband. Even my best friends think I slave over the oven mixing and baking these dang cakes. I've been doing it for years. If anyone knew, my business and reputation would be in the toilet for sure. I keep telling myself I have to learn how to make the cakes without the box mixes, but I never do. I feel like such a sham sometimes. Okay, in her defense, many people that decorate wedding cakes like that, especially like if they're really small, they get like bulk cake mixes from restaurant supply companies, so it's not that big of a deal. But I read it anyway. But making your like the cake decorating itself is an art and a talent, and that's really what people are paying for. Like if you get a wedding cake, you're paying for the decoration. If you're paying for a specialty cake, you're really paying for the frosting. So I wouldn't really care as long as it's. I'm just a goody two shows. I see shoes, but that's funny. I'm a goody two shows. Yeah, that's most grocery store bakeries. You know, some people even get the grocery store cake and then redecorate it because they're good at cake decorating. Because most people are paying for the specialty decoration. As long as the cake isn't gross, I don't think they care. And they would never know anyway. Not that I'm telling anybody to do that. Anyway, well, this one says, snooped around the house looking for juicy secrets. I once helped out a female friend's family by taking care of their cat for a week. Every day for a week, I would go over there and snoop around their house. I found my friend's diary and proceeded to read the entire thing. I used this information to get her to like me, and she is currently my wife. Ah! That means their whole entire life is based on a friggin' lie. That is messed up. That is super messed up. Yikes. Alright, so that one stopped loading, right? But the delivery guy one is reloaded correctly. We're going to be jumping back and forth with these stories. This one says, woman dies before her pizza arrives, but she still tipped him. So, I used to do pizza delivery for a local pizza shop in Lexington, Kentucky. There was this old woman who always ordered pizza every Wednesday night. One day, she called ordering a pepperoni pizza her usual. She's right down the street, so it was ready in 10 minutes and out for delivery. Yet, when I get to her home, an ambulance was parked out front. I walked up to the door, pizza in hand, and pushed the doorbell. A younger woman, I presume her daughter, explained to me that she had passed away and that I was the last person she ever talked to. The woman's daughter paid with tip, and I went back to work. Weird. Cake boss guy, I think, makes everything from scratch. Yep, when you have a big cake business like that, you have those enormous industrial mixers. So getting stuff like flour, sugar, everything in bulk is cheaper. But when you're a one-man show, like if you're a one-person show and you're making like cupcakes and cakes out of your, wherever you get to use an oven from, because you have to have some, if you do like a bakery thing, you have to have your own, like a separate oven from the one that, I don't know, at least in my area, I think. You have to have like a separate kitchen that will let you use their kitchen, or a separate kitchen in your house or area to prepare the food. But if it's just a one person show, but Cake Boss guy, I think they make tons of cakes every day, all day long. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Customer asks delivery driver to pawn her microwave to pay for her bill. Delivered pizzas in North Dakota and always used to get some weirdos. Dirt roads were always a bad sign. One time I arrive at the address in a trailer park and there's a note on the door that says, please come inside, money's on the counter. Whatever. I head in there. There's a $20 bill sitting there for a $26 order. Great. So I decide to wait, but after about 5 minutes, it's starting to look like it's a lost cause. I call them up to see what's up, and a woman answers. I explain to her she's a little short, and she says, yeah, I know. Didn't you see my note? I told her I did see the note, which is how I knew they were $6 short. No, the other note, the one on the microwave. Turning my head, I see a Post-it note with the words that say, pawn me, scribbled on it. You want me to pawn your microwave to make up the difference? She says, yes, we do it a lot. There's a pawn shop right next door, and they usually give me around $20 for it. That should cover the bill and give you a tip for your troubles. I wasn't totally sure if this was legal, but I ventured over to the pawn shop, and he did indeed give me $20 for it. I asked if this was common, and the guy working the counter said I was the 4th delivery guy that month to come in with that microwave. At least I got a $14 tip out of it. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. I feel like if I had to ever deliver pizzas, that would happen to me. I'd just be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to get fired. Goodbye.
I got a tip. Block that number.
I got a tip. I'm going to lick your pizza. And I'm taking it with me. It's my pizza now. Circuit City delivers.
Nut pizza.
What?
You getting some nut pizza?
Getting some nut pizza. I hope this is the whole story because I hope this is the last story on this set of stories because it doesn't load or like. Circuit City delivers a retired adult film star. So I work for Circuit City and was one of those people who delivered and set up TVs and computers. There was this one time we were delivering a computer to this older lady who looked like she was in her 60s. When we arrived at her house, we hear 9-inch nails blasting from the house. We thought this must be an awesome old lady. She invited us in, and while we set up her new computer, she turned off the music and started blasting lesbian porn on her gigantic TV. We both just kind of ignore this and continue. Don't make me start laughing because I'm going to start laughing too much. I mean, any kind of porn would have been inappropriate. Gosh. We both kind of ignore it and continue setting up the computer in the most awkward silence possible. She then starts to talk to us about how she used to be a porn star and how she would like us to stay longer. It was me, an 18-year-old kid, and my boss, 40-year-old ex-Marine, and he just goes, "Well, I'm married, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind." She starts hitting on me quite a bit harder. I get to the point where we just left in the most awkward silence until we get to the truck and we just laugh our butts off. Oh my, oh my gosh. Oh, he's over there going, "Bow, chicka, bow, bow." Oh my gosh, stop it. Trying to see if this loaded any more of these.
Good thing the carpet salesman didn't go there.
Why? Carpet salesman. Is that a thing?
You ever watched lesbian porn?
Carpet salesman? No. This one's titled The Delivery. We got the last delivery story out of that article. I don't know why it didn't load anymore. Anyway, this one's titled Fake College Degree. So I faked the last 2 years of college education. My parents put so much pressure on me, I couldn't handle it. I was suffering from severe depression and anxiety. So I faked it all, lied to everyone, made up fake transcripts. I just got my foot in the door in my desired field thanks to a friend as they hired me as a subordinate. This place only hires college grads, but no one double-checked my credentials since I was recommended. My hopes are that if I need to find another job, I'll have been at this place long enough to get experience alone. I work for a very prestigious company. I'm not bad at my job. I'm actually quite good. But my fear is eventually I'll hit a wall and the lie will come to light. No one has known this for the better part of a decade. It's a relief to finally say it out loud. I can't even tell those I love. My silence is my prison. Well, I mean, if you're making good money, just finish. Oh my God, you got the carpet thing? How old was the girl? 60. The lady with the blasting porn on her TV was 60, if you missed that part of the story. I don't get the carpet salesman thing. That's fine. We don't need to go into great detail about it. What? I'm just saying my brain can't wrap my head around that. I don't think there's really such a thing as a carpet salesman. Anyways. I don't think there is one anyway. Let's just move on with our lives. Huh? What?
You get carpet burns and junk.
Ew. God. Bet her neighbors love her.
Bet they do too.
Newer TVs have Bluetooth, don't they? So you can connect headphones to them. Anyway. This one's titled Night with His Drunken Sister. When I was 15, my parents were going through a divorce. My mom worked night shifts, and my dad lived with a friend of his. Oh no, please tell me this isn't what I'm thinking it is. One night, my sister, who was 19 at the time, came home pretty drunk from a party. She was acting goofy and fell on the couch next to me. She started grabbing my leg and laughing, and we started fondling. Oh no. We ended up, you know what, right there. When we woke up the next day, she had no recollection of the night before, so I just kept my mouth shut. What? Fast forward to when I'm 18, sister's home from college, and dad is over for a visit. They get into an argument, and in a fit of rage, my dad announces how he has never forgiven her for the abortion she got when she was 19 and subsequently terminating his grandchild. I then realize the baby she aborted was in fact mine, and as far as I know, I'm the only one who knows since she's never mentioned that night. What the heck? Ew. All of it. Oh, checking the chat for the shock and shame.
Makes a 60-year-old porn star sound like a saint.
Oh. Oh, Brazers. Oh my gosh, they can't stop talking about it in the chat. Knock, knock. I hear you have a carpet in need of laying. And yes, they were a carpet salesman. And yes, to match the drapes. Oh no. Oh no. Maybe I should really proofread these before we read them on live. Oh no. Oh no. Well, the last story goes into the next one because it says her brother is her daughter's father. Oh, my daughter turns 5 next week. If anyone knew the truth behind her parentage, I could possibly lose her forever. I grew up in foster care, never knowing my parents or siblings. In my senior year, I met an older guy and we dated for almost a year. I got pregnant about 7 months in. One night while we were watching TV, the subject somehow came around to our real parents. He had been adopted as a young child. Turns out the man I was seeing, the father of my daughter, is my half brother, and we share the same mother. Our relationship didn't last, and he is not in her life, per his own choices. My daughter is extremely smart, beautiful, and well rounded. She'll never know the truth. Her father and I made a pact to never tell her. I just hope she never needs a kidney or something. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, there's no more shocking secrets. It's not loading. I don't know what the heck is up with this thing. Probably because I had like 10 tabs open. So it didn't load them all right. Who knows what we're going to run into next. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a choice here. Let's see if it's loaded. What's this one say? Okay. This one says, hold on. Oh my gosh. These people describe the creepiest thing that's ever happened in their home. Let me make sure it loaded correctly. Okay, it looks like this whole thing loaded correctly. All right, good. Yikes. I don't know if we're ever going to get over the porn star one.
Need more of those stories.
Huh?
Need more of those stories.
That was an accident that we found that one. I heard that story from another channel, I think. It's not that bad, guys. Oh my gosh. Well, we're starting right off with a doozy here, and the title says, Nearly Strangled with Barbed Wire. Yikes. Okay, so the laughing will clearly end now. My family and I used to live in a rough neighborhood when I was a kid. 7 years old. One night it was just my mom, me, and my 2 siblings at home. My dad was gone on a business trip. That night around midnight, someone started knocking on our door. My mom woke up, went to the front door, and asked who it was. No one answered. She thought maybe it was some kids playing Ding Dong Ditch, so she went back to bed. About 30 minutes later, again, someone starts knocking. She gets up and peers through the side window to see if she can spot anyone out there, but nobody's there. She starts to worry, so she goes back to the room and grabs my dad's shotgun and sits in the living room in the dark waiting. Again, there's knocking. My mom begins shouting at whoever it is that she's going to call the cops, and if anyone tries to come in, that she'd shoot them. 2 a.m., the police finally show up and do a quick search of the outside of our house while we wait inside. After their search, they tell my mom that they had found a piece of barbed wire about 4 feet long next to the front door and asked if it belonged to my mom. She said it wasn't hers and asked why. The cop told her it belonged to whoever was knocking on the door. They were planning on strangling my mom with the barbed wire when she opened the door to see who was knocking. They said that she was very smart to not open the door to see who was there, otherwise, it would have cost her her life. The cops said that they'd patrol the neighborhood until morning and do a thorough investigation once there was daylight. That morning, as they were searching around the house, they found footprints leading around to the back of the house, leading up to my bedroom window. They had also found nicks in the window sill where they were trying to pry open the window to break in but failed. After that, we moved out of the house. Dang! Ooh. Oh my gosh. Well, the chat's taking a turn. Choked with barbed wire sounds like a sexy evening full of fun. What did that guy say? Why did it show up on the screen but not in the chat? What guy? I see it too. Does it say Peter? What does it say? It's too far away from me. I can't read it. God, all right. Moving on. Missing dog. Oh my gosh. I think we now have something cast over the live stream. It's fine. At least it'll keep it light when we read a horrifying or super sad story. Let's see. That one's about a dog. I don't really want to read that one. I don't even know if it's going to be bad. Oh my gosh. Why do these ones keep, like... I haven't restarted my iPad in a while, so I wonder if that's why it doesn't... For some reason, when you start, like, scrolling down on the story, it's not loading.
Sexy loading.
Sexy loading. Sexy. Trailer Park Boys have entered the chat. All right, look at this one. Goes to the second one, and then it's not. There's nothing there. What the heck? Aw, my doggy was dreaming. All right, let me see here. This one says disappearing mom, but then there's like the whole thing's not there. What's happening? I'm not sure why that does that. It looks like there's like an ad that's covering up the article. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I'll do this and see if that works. And then go back to it. No. Good Lord. Sad but funny horror story. Choked with barbed wire. That's got to be a fetish for someone. I mean, you're going to die because it's going to poke through your skin and kill you. So, if it's me, maybe it got censored from the chat. If that's the case, repeating it is no use. I can't. Yeah, I can see like the part where it's on the screen and the software that does the live stream. The screen that you guys see with like the chat on the screen is super far. It's really small. So I can see that it's like what it's showing you, but I can't read any of it. It's really small. But on the side, there's like chat. There's a chat box that's got all your stuff, so I can read that. Disappearing mom story just disappeared. It's weird.
That disappeared mom was 60 years old.
Ew. Stop. People describe the creepiest things they've seen family members do, thinking it's totally normal. Oh no. That one sounds like creepy. Kids were forced into mandatory cuddle time? Nah. No. No. Okay. Let's see. This one says, I'm just going to read whatever one pops up, but they're all going to be random weird stuff. But this one is the creepiest things they've seen a family member do, thinking it's totally normal. This one says there was a baby in the closet. This was not my experience, but my aunt's. This was back in the 1950s when my aunt was a teenager. She was hired to by a couple to babysit. She'd never babysat for this couple before, but she was impressed because they're fairly wealthy and live in a big house. Two small children, around 5 and 6 years old, were well dressed, well behaved. My aunt spent the day with them, fed them, played with them, etc. That evening, she got them ready for bed. The parents were due back later that night. My aunt heard some sounds coming from an upstairs closet. The children were in bed asleep. She opened the closet and found a crib, and in the crib was a baby. Both the crib and the baby were filthy. I think my aunt woke up the children and asked them about the baby, but their answers were vague. I don't recall my aunt having any luck getting information about the baby from the other two children. My aunt cleaned up the baby, washed the bedding, and I remember her telling me that the baby didn't really make much sound other than the little grunts that had drawn her attention to the closet. She probably tried to feed the baby, but I don't remember that part of the story. According to my aunt, the parents came home, paid her, thanked her, took the baby, and the dad drove her home. She never babysat for them again and has no idea what happened to the baby. I'm thinking because it was the 50s, the baby probably had a delay of some kind, and you know how they treated everything in the 50s like it was leprosy. Ridiculous. YouTube is always salty, like gym clothes. Hey, happy Halloween with potato Wi-Fi. Maybe there's a zombie apocalypse or YouTube is being salty. What? YouTube's being salty? Is there a delay? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me. I mean, on the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I was reading the chat. I was making sure there wasn't a delay or something.
There's a delay.
There is a delay? Like what, 2 seconds or something?
Or not.
Is it buffering?
Uh-uh.
Are you live?
Yeah.
What do you mean there's more than 2 second delay? Like how long of a delay is there?
You're just now talking about delay.
Oh, delay.
Just talking about the 50s.
Okay, you guys can hear me. Okay. Let's see. This, okay, back to the stories. So this, they really, really liked plates. I knew a girl in high school whose parents were obsessed with dinner plates. Like they had such a huge collection of collectible plates in their house that every room was full of them on display. Their entire house was basically a library set up for these things. Her bedroom was a mattress on the floor surrounded by display cases of plates. You couldn't even lean on any wall. They were all like this. The last time I went over there, knocked one off the wall by mistake. I caught it and it didn't break, but my God, the rage her dad flew into was friggin' horrifying. He was inches away from punching me. I never went back. They tried to nervously laugh it off like, haha, good old dad being funny. The one time I asked my friend why they had so many, she went on a passionate tangent about all the cool plates they had and why they were so awesome. It went on for an hour. I never asked again because hearing about neat dishware for an hour was like torture. That one was just weird and funny. So you collected so many plates that your kid didn't even have a frame for their bed. Kookaburra bird. Paul Kate, hello. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. Okay. This one is titled This Family Watched the Same Disturbing Movie Repeatedly. Something that I've witnessed for years only began to hit me as the realization slowly unfolded. A family that I've visited frequently, all adult children who still live with their parents, would coincidentally always have the same movie on every single time I visited. They all huddled around as though they were watching it for the first time. Once, when I actually stayed over for a longer duration, the TV was finally turned off when the movie ended, only to be turned back on again and the play button pressed for the same movie. I finally realized that this movie is watched multiple times a day, every single day, like a ritual, and all the members of the family react the same way to the same scene over and over again as if they've never seen it before. For all those asking what movie it was called Just Ask My Children, about a couple accused of child exploitation. What a weird choice for the movie. I thought it was going to be Die Hard or something. At least you could excuse that. Like, I don't know, or like Christmas Vacation, which would be hilarious, by the way. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's weird. Oh. The bathroom served as a photo booth. Okay. So my friend's mom used to bust in on her daughter's friends using the bathroom and snap a picture. She proudly showed me the photo album of random kids using the toilet, looking surprised and confused as hell. Don't really kick in how messed up that was until later in life, but like, what? It'd be funny if you just pretended to take the picture, but the fact that she actually did and then kept them and showed them to other people.
It wasn't a confused look. They were halfway pinching one off.
They were like, come on, I'm wiping. What the heck? Oh my gosh. I have watched the same movie many of them at her house because she doesn't have cable, so she watches DVDs and Netflix over and over again. Oh yeah. The name of the movie, let me go back and see, it was called Just Ask My Children. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like one of those after school specials or made for TV movies. There's no other details about it, though. I'm guessing it's not a movie that most people would want to watch. Bathroom one. That's funny. Oh, I just want to say it's been refreshing to hear your voice again. Thanks for that. You're welcome. Happy Halloween. There were some movies I used to watch 20 times a day, every day when I was younger. You know what, though? I mean, there's always, like, when you're younger, go through, like, a favorite, like, person or cartoon character or something, like, you know, a phase where you like a certain thing. But this was an entire family watching the movie. A movie that clearly no one in this chat has heard of. And they watched it several times a day together as if they've never seen it before. The level of insanity.
Hallmark presents Just Ask My Children.
Hallmark represent. Someone just said it's a
Starring
Lifetime
the same
movie.
lady who was in the last 5 films.
No kidding. Hallmark has been branching out on their actresses and actors lately. Thank goodness, because it gets really hard to believe that the same woman from the big city just realized all of her dreams come true in the small town where she grew up. Anyways. Sounds cultish. Yeah. Well, it said it was about child exploitation, so yikes. The kids' teeth and umbilical cords were saved, and their hair hung around the house. Oh, that's the title to this for. It's like a paragraph long, but whew, must have been a pretty good movie. You know what? let's all watch it and come back to a chat and we'll discuss it. All right? Cuz if I could show it 29 times a day, 1 hour movie would equal 20 hours. So did you sleep? It's a really good movie. Do you want to watch it? Eyes Bloodshot. That's what my friend Christmas kid. I went through a phase where I really, and it wasn't multiple times a day, but it was at least once a day when I watched Christmas with the Cranks. I think it was a Christmas before last. I just like, I was busy crafting and I was making Christmas stuff and it was just nice to have it on. I wasn't like even paying that much attention to it. But hey, I guess someone else could call that crazy. That's what my friend watched. Okay. Okay. On to this insano story. Whenever did you guys hear the title to that? The kids' teeth and umbilical cords were saved and their hair hung around the house. So whenever the father would come home from work or some errand, every family member would greet him by the door and then stand around silently for a minute or so, blankly staring into space as if they were thinking about their next move. Then the father would go sit in the same spot and they would follow and sit down. There was absolute dead silence during dinner time, and they always ate at the exact same meal each night. The mother also saved the children's dried up belly buttons, the small piece of umbilical cord that dries and falls off, and every tooth that fell out or was extracted. The children's hair were tied into knots or braided and hung around multiple parts of the house. I mean, who's witnessing this? Who's the person telling this? What happened to them? What happened to them? Like, there should be another sentence that says, right below that one, I knew this because they kept me in a closet and I finally escaped and wrote this story to put on the internet. Oh my gosh. This one, oh boy. This one's titled, They Thanked Jesus Every Hour When the Cuckoo Clock Chimed. Oh boy. I had a good friend in elementary school. They lived in a farmhouse that looked like it belonged to the Addams family. Every wall in this house had a crucifix on it, not a small handheld one. These were 2 or 3 feet on every wall, bathroom, bedrooms, closets. They had a room upstairs that we were forbidden to go into, so of course we had to sneak in and see. I didn't know why it was forbidden, but it was actually a Vatican-style church chapel complete with burnt offerings, candles, pews, altar, and a 6-foot-tall crucifix with Jesus hanging on it. But this was not the most what-the-fuck thing. They had a cuckoo clock they called the prayer clock. The clock had 12 disciples for the numbers on the dial. I never knew what came out of the clock on the hour, probably Jesus, but not every single hour that clock would go off. I can't even.
It's half past Apostle Peter.
I can't breathe. Oh, I don't know if anyone heard that, but my husband just said it's half past Apostle Peter. Anyway. But every single hour that clock would go off, my friend's mother would round up all the kids and make us write thank you prayers and place them in the prayer jar. We had to write down thank you notes to Jesus for everything we did in the last hour. If we were playing with Legos and had a snack, I would have to write down, thank you, Jesus, for letting me play Legos and eating string cheese. His mom, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. His mom would read them and usually would have us edit them saying things like, you had an apple juice too. You didn't think Jesus would be sad if you didn't thank him for the apple juice too? By about 4th grade, I refused to go over there anymore. It was just too weird, especially since their mom had just had a new baby and they didn't believe in diapers. They let the kid crawl around naked and go to the bathroom on everything. 24 years later, what happened to the kids? The roaming baby that crapped on everything became a Catholic priest. The second youngest one moved out and is a transsexual entertainer. And the oldest, my friend, became a programmer in Silicon Valley. The father eventually left the mother. That might be the weirdest story I've ever heard. I don't know. There's a lot of them here. I'm half past Peter.
Did you thank Jesus for that string cheese?
I'm I'm half past Peter. And a quarter to Judas. I watched Extended Hobbies too. Oh my gosh. Oh. Okay. This one says a family with a lot of strange fears. I have an ex whose family would literally burn any meat they cooked for dinner. Okay, before I go on, when I order bacon when I'm in a restaurant, which isn't whenever I do, I say burn it. If it's just shy of looking like it's plastic or it's too burnt, it's perfect. So, whatever. Anyway, my husband always burns a burger for me when he makes them on the grill, too, by the way. Chicken, fish, steak, all completely burnt. They were they were terrified about bacteria on their food. I got them to cook my steak medium well, less burned, but still above well. Once, but I got some serious looks of disgust. The mother also forced me to draft a living will and instructed me on the proper way to seal a room to protect from a very likely chemical attack with duct tape and plastic sheeting. Well, that last part's just common sense.
5, 4, purple.
He made it all the way to purple. Wow. Okay. Let's see. This one's titled Perhaps This Mother Really Wanted Grandkids. This just reminded me of a guy I very briefly dated. His mom would do stuff like lock us in his bedroom together and make creepy comments when she finally unlocked it later. Never had any kind of relations with the guy. I was too creeped out and the relationship was very short. I definitely got the impression that the mom was trying to trick me into getting pregnant. Well, I'm going to guarantee you that anyone that gets impregnated by that guy is going to have to be tricked into it because that is creepy. This one says they owned a large clown doll that they would dress in their clothing. A friend from high school theater used to invite me over to their family's house all the time. Her mom collected large vintage dolls like child-sized ballerinas, Victorian girls, and this one overly happy clown. They'd dress it up in their own clothing and place it around the house like it was a family joke, that it was alive. They also collected and played didgeridoos as a family group. It sounded cool, but they were all pretty odd individuals. Like, yeah, or I'm going to bust out 5 or 7 didgeridoos. I've only seen one. How do you have multiple of them? Oh my gosh. This one says fun with the phone book. I had a friend whose family would get the paper and the phone book and go through crossing out people who had died. They thought it would come in handy someday. That was how my friend justified it, but I'm certain they got some kind of twisted plot. How did they know? How would you know if you just pick up the phone book who died and who didn't? By the way, the user's name for this is called the Potato Bitch. I can't breathe. My gosh, I should have read the username for the creepy other story.
Get out the phone book. Jeff Miller died.
I don't know if I'm just getting tired, but oh my gosh. I'm looking for the church one. The church username was Dotel Penguin. I don't know how they come up with these names, but they're awesome. Oh my gosh. Probably used newspaper obituaries. Just driving home from work. Do 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 do. Stopping at the funeral home every day. You got any fresh ones? Got some names for me? How would you possibly keep up with that? The phone book. You remember how thick those were? There's like, aren't there millions of people in there? Oh my gosh.
The dead pages.
The dead pages. Phone books. Ironically, the phone book's dead, isn't it? The incredibly paranoid mother. I was about 7 or 8 when I used to play with this girl that lived a few houses down and across the street. I live in a cookie cutter, very safe, fairly decent neighborhood across the street from the high school. But her mother never let us play outside because there could be a drive by. Any car we saw driving by could be someone with a gun. It could very easily shoot us and kill us. She also never let us play in the living room near the windows for the same reason. Another time I was over there playing with my friend and the mom pulled me aside. She pointed to a truck she saw parked outside my house on the curb, my uncle's truck. She told me that it's probably a burglar and he was inside my house killing my family at the moment. She wouldn't let me go home either for the fear of me also getting killed. She finally let me go home after my mom called later and I requested to come home for dinner. That family is still crazy 13 years later. Oh, God. My gosh. Oh, God. They still send my parents a phone book every year, and my parents still keep it even though they know how to use the internet. Believe it or not, someone dropped a phone book off to a friend of mine lately. It was new for this year. I haven't seen it one in ages. Yeah, I really thought they stopped making it just because it's a huge waste of paper. And I thought we were all trying to like cut down on using paper. Says the person that buys a notebook every time she goes to the store. I can't help it. I like to write stuff down. I have tried to write lists in my iPad. I need to do that.
They used to give you two. They give you that thick one, and then they give you that really small one.
Oh, as a pack?
Yeah.
Haircuts and dinner conversation were banned. There was a family of girls I went to church with, and none of them were allowed to cut their hair. They had to wait until they were 16 so they wouldn't get a haircut they'd regret because their mother had. They also weren't allowed to talk at the dinner table. One time, one of the daughters was laughing at something and coughed on her food. The mom was afraid of one of them choking and dying, so talking was banned. No one told me that when I came over for dinner. I talked and they all just stared at me. Oh my God. Because I thought you were going to die.
Please pass the Fruit Loops.
They deliver phone books yearly to the sites I work at and leave them in the hall. I end up tossing out like 40. I mean, honestly, it's a great fire starter. But, yeah. Dad cooked a disturbing dinner. I spent the night at a classmate's house when I was 8. Her dad told us he was cooking dinner that night and proceeded to go out to the backyard, take one of the girl's pet rabbits, cut its throat, then cooked it. When she started to cry, her mom gave her this death stare and said, "Stop it. What does mommy love the best?" And the girl said, "Obedience." And that's the end of that story. What? I feel like that deserves at least another couple paragraphs. What the heck? Were you friends? Did she die? What happened? Mom was... Oh my gosh, it's past midnight here. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. Yeah, sometimes I get laughing and... Whew. I don't have one of those cute laughs like... or like, you know, people sneeze. Achoo. I'm full horn loud on everything that I do. Oh my gosh. I live alone. I still talk while having dinner. One time my stepdaughter was in the living room. This was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And I thought she was downstairs and I'm in the kitchen just talking to myself like I always do. And I looked in the living room and she's just staring at me. I was like, I thought you went downstairs. Happy Halloween. Man, I could tell you some stories about the families of people I was friends with as a kid. One of them would have children's teeth around the house as decoration. Oh, it's 6:04 on the 31st here. Oh, you better get. Do you get trick or treaters there? Is that a thing outside of the U.S.? I'm just curious if that's like a worldwide thing or anywhere that like people recognize Halloween. Does everybody go trick or treating? How does that work? I'm just curious. Let's see. This one says Mom was preserved in a glass coffin. A friend of mine is a house appraiser. Sorry. Ugh. A friend of mine is a house appraiser in New Jersey. He walks into the living room of one particular client's house, and there's a glass coffin in the living room with the body of a woman preserved inside, like Lennon. The guy says it's his mother. My friend said it was the fastest he ever appraised a house in his entire career. I would say the dead body in the glass case is probably going to reduce the value. It's going to be hard to sell that. Actually, there might be some people who are like, yeah, can you leave the body? Like, I technically live with my cat. Technically. Do you dress up your cat for Halloween?
Yeah.
My dog doesn't like anything on her, like collars, nothing. I have like this little jacket for when it's cold outside, and I did get her to put it on last year, but we didn't go for a walk with it on. Wait, maybe we did, but it was really cold out. Okay, let's see. They all dressed alike in pink poodle skirts and long gloves. It's mom, a daughter who's probably 16, and a younger daughter who's probably 12. And all three are always dressed alike, usually in a pink or white poodle dress, shiny black heels, long stockings. The youngest one usually just wears sneakers. They all always have long white or black gloves on that go up to their elbows. Their hair is always done up in big, elaborate curls, and the older two always walk around with their hands cupped in front of them. Strange folk. Very nice and polite, but strange. That's a lot of work. Um, the next one says a family of Sarah Michelle Gellar fans. Like, what was the show she was on?
Buffy.
Buffy? Like Buffy? My best friend's family has a life size cardboard cutout of Sarah Michelle Gellar. They would adorn it with accessories like scarves and sunglasses, then hide it just behind closed doors and around corners to scare each other and their guests with it. I was caught by it many times, and it was always a laugh hearing a random loud gasp or scream. Okay, now that's just funny. It just sounds like they're hilarious. Like, let's see. Even if she had been embalmed, it still would be decomposed somewhat. We got big bags of candy last year, and no trick-or-treaters came by. Aw. I used to take my boys trick-or-treating, but little Miss Rona ruined that. Oh, yeah, I know. I live in an apartment. I don't get trick-or-treaters, which I'm fine with. I'm a Scrooge. Oxy Nightshade. Hey, happy Halloween! Do you hand out candy, Elena? Or is there trick-or-treating? Like, like some of the churches do trunk or treat, even though you're on the street. My other friend's family thought Halloween was so evil they would let their kids trick or treat and they would give out rosary beads instead of candy. So here's the funny thing. The whole point of dressing up for Halloween was that your costume is supposed to scare away the evil spirits that were released, right? So you would think if you were trying to keep evil away, you would dress up to keep it away, which was the point. But basically, that means same as T32 said, we have some sort of security. You have to be buzzed in. Oh, I didn't see the rest of your commentary. Huh. All right. Oh no, this one says a mother would check her son's bowel movements. Oh, come on. No. Let me see if I can read it without being okay. Let's just go on this little venture together. So, I went to this guy's house once after school. I wasn't friends with him, but we were assigned on a project together. We'll call him Gary. Anyway, we're working on this project when he excused himself to use the restroom. 15 minutes later, he returned. A little while later, I decided to use the restroom while he was making snacks. I walk into the bathroom and behold, before my eyes, floating like a manatee through the brown estuaries of Florida, was the result of Gary's earlier bathroom excursion. I shrugged it off. I mean, we all forget at least once to flush, right? I flushed for him, took a leak, flushed again, went on to work on the project. Gary's mom gets home from work a couple hours later. She nods to us, says hello politely before heading toward the back of the house. A few seconds later, she returns to the kitchen where we were working and screams, "Where is it?" I jump and confused, so I shoot a "what the fuck" look at Gary. Gary muttered, "It wasn't me. It was my friend." His mom glared at me, huffed, and walked out. Gary later explained that every day after school he would take a dump and was required to leave it in the toilet so his mom could check it. He wasn't sick or anything. She just wanted to check it to make sure he was healthy or something. I never went back to Gary's house. Yeah, I don't think so. What? To make sure he was eating his corn? I don't understand that at all. Was she a scientist? Yep, he's still human. Yes, you are, Zena. You are quarantined right now. Seems like something backwards, like dressing something scary to keep scary away. No, it's not. It's not backward. The scary costume is supposed to scare, like, keep the bad spirits away. It's supposed to scare them away. So you would think if you want to keep bad spirits away that you would. That's the whole point of putting the jack-o'-lantern on your front porch. But, you know, things get lost, trickle on down. My boys used to make out like bandits, big chocolate bars, cans of pop. Yeah, cans of pop's a risky one. Like, how do kids make it back without busting that in the bag of candy? 2.5 hours. When I was a kid, we would trick or treat like in the depths of the dirt roads and climb up hills to get to houses. And like 10 o'clock at night, we're still knocking on doors. If Halloween costumes are meant to be scare away evil spirits, it makes it more confusing why girls want it. Because, again, people miss the entire point. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Oh, no. This one is titled, They Had a Family Porn Night. How do you do that? I got to know this one dude in junior high through a mutual friend, and he seemed like a pretty cool guy. So I went to his house a couple of times to play video games, ride bikes, etc. Met his parents, who seemed kind of different, but I couldn't put my finger on it until we were playing games one day, and his dad stepped out in front of the TV and said, "Well, this is weekly family porn night. We always let one of the kids pick out a video from the store and we watch it together. Want to stay longer?" Even though I was a young boy, that was too much for me. The thought of him, his sister, and parents all watching porn together freaked me out. I did not stay. Yeah, gross. What? What? Seducing spirits sounds like stuff young people do. I do, and I don't belong to any organized church. All my services are free. In a lot of organized churches, they hand out treats and call it trunk or treat with scriptures, and some serve finger foods. Used to go to the rich neighborhoods back in the day. Yeah. Um, Elena, will you send me on Twitter links to any of your stuff so people can donate? Because I would love to help let people know about that. Because that's really nice that you go way out of your way to do stuff for people. This next story is called Frowning Was Not Allowed. I once went to my friend's house for her birthday party when I was in middle school. The family was super weird. All the walls were painted in these horrific pastel colors. Every single room had at least one photograph of Jesus, if not multiple. Anyway, we're all hanging out at the party, and the mother comes up to me and very sternly tells me she would like a word with me. First, she was mad at me because we do not swear in this house. Okay, but I had said geez. Second, she said, we do not frown in this house. If you weren't constantly smiling, you were in trouble. Yikes. Robot. Fucking like a robot. What? Oh my gosh. Okay, I just found another article that says 13 people confess their unbelievable secrets that no one knows about. I don't know if I've read this before or not, but you guys will have to tell me if it sounds familiar. Um, I mean, is there any place that anyone can donate to you or for your cause? Just let me know. Let's see. This one's called They Blame Themselves. My great uncle Jack used to live with my family. One day he got drunk and had a bad fall that ended up causing him to bleed out. I ended up finding him. I was 14 at the time and had never seen. Oh, thanks, Dave. Thank you. That's ironically talking about donating to Elena. I'll figure that out later. I'm gonna get distracted. Um, Small village life. Um, I ended up finding him. I was 14 at the time, and I'd never seen such an awful sight. Lost consciousness due to all the blood. When I eventually recovered, I called the ambulance and stayed with my uncle. He passed away in the back of the ambulance holding my hand. No one knows what happened. It just blanked out and then came back. No one knows about what happened to me, and if they did, they would realize that I'm the reason he's dead. Oh no, that's not right. This one's called The Little Blue Book. This isn't necessarily something that could ruin my life, but it could ruin many other people's lives, and I haven't told anyone before. My father recently went to prison for a white-collar crime that he pled guilty to. He didn't commit the crime, but the alternative was fighting a highly sensationalized, media-obsessed scapegoat case and potentially getting 20 plus years. While he was in prison, I read his little blue book, which I knew contained all the missteps of everyone he's worked with. He's always been an extremely scrupulous man, so these offenses were something he took seriously enough to note. I have information on countless state employees, incredibly prominent and wealthy community members, numerous elected city and state officials, police officers. This information could ruin lives and start political controversy. My father is an incredible man and is not vengeful whatsoever. He will never use any of this information against these people, despite the fact that most completely turned on him and stayed uninvolved at all costs or started pointing fingers. When I picture my aging father sitting in a maximum security jail cell sleeping on a metal sheet without a mattress, he wasn't even given one until his fifth night. I'm filled with rage for these people who could have stood up for their friend and prevented this, while he continues to be loyal. I still haven't decided which campaigns, if any, I'm going to ruin in the upcoming elections. What? When is this dated? I can't see the date on it. Dang it. Oh, this one's not loading again. Anyway, so I don't know what happened. Some of these things don't even load right. Was this the one I was reading? Yeah, and it wouldn't load. The disappearing mom. This one stopped at the I went to the missing dog and went to go below it and it was gone. This one says the disappearing mom. Aw, that was really nice. When I was younger, I spent the day helping a neighbor rake leaves on his property. He was friendly with my family, so he walked me home to say hi to my parents. We walked into the house and he heard my mom upstairs. It sounded like she was on the phone and walking around. I called for my dad. No answer. My neighbor says, "Well, it sounds like your mom's on the phone. I'll catch them another time." We say goodbye and he leaves. I go upstairs to see my mom, but I can't seem to find her or hear her anywhere. I search the house and it's empty. I'm thinking, did she leave the house while I was saying goodbye to the neighbor? I call my dad's cell. My mom didn't have one. And he picks right up. I ask him where he is and if he knows where mom went. He says, "We're at the store. We've been running errands for a couple of hours." My neighbor and I both heard footsteps and a woman's voice. No idea who or what it was, but we both heard it. I waited outside until my parents got home. What? This one's titled "Someone Unscrewed All My Light Bulbs." My apartment was once robbed and broken into again a couple months later. The spooky part? I had just moved in when I got very, very ill. I had to go stay with my parents while getting treatment at the hospital. No one had been to my new place or knew the address. It was full of unpacked boxes, and I was too sick to move in properly. They left the TV. They left the jar of cash on the dresser. They only took my diaries. Multiple diaries. I always buy the same kind, and they date back for years. They were packed in different boxes, too. Ugh. Someone had rifled through my stuff, found the diaries, and took the only those. They even left my DIY and recipe books, which are the same style as the diaries. So they had to have checked. My apartment was on the third floor. There was no sign of a break-in, but there was small handles on the outside of the pillars on the porch that went all the way to the ground. So maybe they climbed? The second time I returned home one night to find the light outside of my door off. I didn't think much of it, except that I'd need to call to get it replaced. I unlocked and opened the door and tried to turn on the light. Nothing. And I thought maybe the power had gone out. But then I had looked over and saw my microwave with the correct time on it. Something about that spooked me, and I went to wait in my car after I called the apartment complex on call. He came over, or the agent. He came over. I waited outside. He came out and told me to call the cops. Turns out nothing had been taken, but every light bulb in my apartment had been unscrewed just enough so that the lights wouldn't turn on. The cops came and checked it out, found nothing suspicious, but told me to stay somewhere else for the night. The next day, after telling my sister what happened, she and her boyfriend drove in from 3 hours away and installed deadbolts. Totally against the complex's policy, but the management was just as creeped out as I was. Nothing else happened, and I've lived here for 2 years. What? I feel like I've told that story before. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Donate to your local Salvation Army and your local food banks. I'll donate to food banks for sure. I heard that Salvation Army I don't know. Maybe you can clarify for that. Maybe if anybody knows. I've heard that misinformation about them. Unless you know that they do donate back to the community, then I will for sure do that. Anytime that you know of a place that actually donates properly and doesn't mistreat the people that work there, because I won't shop at Goodwill anymore because of that. Oh man, this next one says a murdered woman in the attic. At my old apartment, we had a strange series of events occur that led us to believe that someone was living in our ceiling. We called her the ceiling lady. In the middle of the night, we'd frequently hear kitchen cupboards opening and closing. Can you guys hear my husband snoring next to me? He just woke up when I said that. A few times I came home from work to find items on the counter that I didn't buy. I was a bachelor at the time, as was my roommate, and we'd find things like dirty cans of beans and cooking ingredients that neither of us bought. They would go missing randomly from the kitchen. One night in particular was really scary. My roommate gets sleep paralysis, which is spooky in itself. But one night he woke up and saw a woman in raggedy clothes standing over him, just looking at him. After a few moments, she walked out of the room. The same night, my girlfriend slept over and woke up because someone next to the bed asked her if she was thirsty and realized there was somebody in the room. She was terrified and didn't make a sound. She just stared at the person. I woke up about 10 seconds later because I heard the bedroom door slam, and she was sitting bolt upright. We talked with my roommate about it the next day, and both of them described seeing the same person. There was a hatch in the hallway in the ceiling that had been nailed shut long before we moved in. We're convinced that she was murdered in the apartment and that her body was hidden in the ceiling, and she now haunts the apartment. Or she could be really living up there. You didn't go up there and check. I realized recently that I could technically say I donate to children weekly. Out here they do, but I live in Washington State. How does Goodwill mistreat people? They exploit special needs people, and they don't pay them even minimum wage. When we recycle bottles, we have the option to donate money to children's shelters. Oh, and while they do that, their CEO, always check the price, like the salary of the CEO. The CEOs of Goodwill, Salvation Army, etc. Yeah, they all make a lot of money. It's kind of odd for what is supposed to be charitable. What's zero, Zena? So I just press the button, and instead of money back, I donate. Oh, that's really cool. So you can just go to the store and wait, let me reread that. Because not every state in the U.S. has that like on their cans, but my state does. And most people will literally like park somewhere and walk up and down a road and collect bags of cans because people are so careless, they just throw them out. Like, I know it's 10 cents, but it's still 10 cents and it adds up really quick. And you take it and then you put it in the machine and then you push the button and prints out like a digital receipt, and then you go to the cashier and you get your money back. But donating would be amazing. It's just knowing, because there's so many shady companies here, you just don't know what you're actually donating to. Like when you go to Walmart, you know that Walmart has like the biggest amount of employees that are on assistance, even though Walmart makes well over, they could compensate their employees better anyway. So as you're checking out, it says, would you like to round up to the nearest dollar to donate to the children's center, while their employees are in need of donation and better pay. The irony. Just do your own research, like Elena said, and just look at it. Just be aware. Sometimes it's better to donate to a smaller area. Like we used to have a store in our town, and they donated specifically to people that kind of had to go in hiding because of domestic violence situations. It's not there anymore. Um, but you could donate and they would sell the items just like Goodwill does, but it directly went to people that had to go into hiding. Yes, you can. Yes, you can make a lot of money. My husband's snoring, so you guys are gonna have to let me know if you can hear him. Sometimes if you say that, he'll wake up because he's snoring. This next one's called Shadows on the Wall. When I was a kid, I had no curtains or blinds over my window in my room. There's a street lamp just outside my window, so anything that walks past my window, like a deer, would cast a shadow on the wall opposite my window. 2 nights in a row, I woke up to see the shadow of a man on my wall. I didn't have enough courage to turn and look up at the window to see who it was. It was late at night, too. I knew it couldn't be my dad because I could hear him snoring. Oh, the irony. The worst part is, my bed was in front of the window with my head at the bottom of the window, so whoever was behind me could probably see me. I think this part is the scariest because it's not something supernatural. There's a good chance it was actually a person creeping in some little girl's bedroom window. I mean, yikes. Dun dun dun. Yes, what Dutch just described. We have 10-cent codes on most bottles and cans, and when recycling machines have the option of either getting money or donating. That's amazing. That's just smart. That's just smart. This next one's called Ghost Phone. My older sister and I shared a bedroom. Since there was a time period when her and I couldn't sleep, either due to horrible nightmares, noises in the night, etc., her and I started sleeping in the same bed. I had a queen-size bed and she had a twin. We would both sleep in my bed because we were scared to sleep alone. My bed was pushed up against the wall, and this wall was connected to our garage. One night, my sister shakes me to wake me up and says, "Do you hear that?" I sit up groggily and stay silent. Then I heard a bang, like someone with a closed fist hitting the other side of the wall where my bed was pressed against. A few seconds later, another bang from a different part of the wall. I sat there in disbelief, and then another bang from another part of the wall. Our door was open, and you could see across the hall into our parents' room, and their door was closed. Then another bang. So finally, my sister made a fist and started punching the wall back. When she finished, we both just sat there in silence, waiting to see if it would respond. As we sit there in silence, my cell phone starts to ring. Who the heck is calling me at this hour, I thought. Just would like to mention that this is 2004. So I crawl over to where my phone was, on the floor, plugged in charging. And I see my sister's cell phone on the display screen. I turn around and look at my sister and say, "Your cell phone's calling me." Her phone was charging right next to mine on the floor. And she had one of those flip phones that back in the day, you had to literally open it up to dial out. Her closed phone somehow managed to call my phone. She looked at me and said, "What?" Then climbed over me to her phone. Sure enough, on the outgoing call was my number. We got out of the room. It was just super creepy how it all seemed to happen at the same time. We never did figure out what was banging on the wall. Just like to mention that the banging happened all over from the top right corner all the way down to the bottom left. How it reached all the way to the top of the wall, I don't know. That's what makes me think it wasn't a person. Plus our garage door was locked and closed, and we never heard it open or close. When we got up to haul butt out of our room, it woke my parents up, so we knew it couldn't have been them. Yikes. There's never any closure on these. Inherently heavy liquor bottles don't have codes. Had to get up early for my code class. Sorry, Emily, you had to type that in the chat. Snore if you want. Some YouTubers have their dog snoring in the background. Have you ever been on TikTok? Like, seriously, there's people that sleep on their live and people just watch them sleep. Oh, yeah, Kat's just kind of like zonked out on us, didn't she? But I have been reading for like, it says 2 hours and 30 minutes. And that's not too bad. This one says attempted robbery by the Joker. When I was in my teens, my parents took a vacation but left their cars in the driveway. It was just my grandmother who lived in our house, my younger sister, and myself for almost 2 weeks. One night, I woke up to our dog growling at the motion sensor lights in our backyard. I got up and walked toward the front of the house and noticed a shadow coming from the bottom of the door crack. Somebody was standing there. I slowly crept my way to the peephole, and when I looked out, I saw a giant eyeball looking in. I froze for a second in a panic and then rushed to the phone to call 911. As I was running away from the door, the person did one really loud slam on the front door and gave off a laugh that could have been from the Joker from Batman. As I'm calling the police, I run to one of the windows to see if I can see what the person looks like and notice an old crappy car speeding off down the street. I never know who it was or why they were there. The police believe it was burglars, thinking nobody had been in the house because the cars hadn't been moved in days. Oh, yeah, that's creepy. Watching people sleep would be creepy. I don't think they mean it to be creepy. It's like there's like this a large amount of people that are so super lonely that they either get comfort from people being there while they fall asleep unalive, or the people watching find comfort in it because it makes them feel like more attached to the people. I'm just guessing. I'm just thinking, like, think if you live by yourself, you don't really have anybody around, you're always alone, that would kind of make you feel like your friend was sleeping over and they just fell asleep. I'm just guessing. This one's titled A Man in the Window. When I was a kid, I was really confused one night when a classmate of mine showed up with her older sister and their mother. They stayed the night in my living room and no one would explain what was going on. I later found out my classmate had been in her bedroom, turned around, and saw a man looking in her window. She screamed, her mother came, and the dude just kept staring for a few minutes before he walked away calmly. The police were called and they told him to go elsewhere for the night. Since all their relatives were a good distance away, our house was the only place they could stay. I mean, my screen's going to get ruined at that point. Something's going to go right through it. It's probably going to be my hands. Some YouTuber who just sits still on his videos allegedly had a burglar break in, look at him, and left. Also, he has peed on the floor while sitting still. What? Ugh. That's crazy. Some of the things. Someone broke in and rearranged Game Boy pieces. When I was a kid, we came back from 2 weeks vacation to discover a carved wooden box with the good silverware sitting in the middle of the living room floor. Oh, it sounds like they're probably going to rob you, but got spooked and took off. A quick check by my parents revealed that a patio door had been crowbarred and looked like somebody had gone through some of our things, so police were called while my parents continued to evaluate. Somebody had broken into the house and gone through everything, put it all back neatly, but not the way it was before, and took nothing. All the clothes and cupboards had been taken out and put back neatly, but differently than the way they had been in there before. They had taken stuff out of each board game and then put it back differently than it was before, top to bottom, everything in the entire house. For months, they were still discovering things that were not the way they usually kept them. Oh, my house has been broken in before, not the one I live in now. And it's really, like, I don't know if someone stays living. I think I moved out like 4 months after this happened, but somebody broke in our house and went through every drawer, and cupboard. They had a basket full of stuff that they were getting ready to steal, but they must have been spooked. And after somebody does that to your house, it just doesn't feel like your house anymore. I'm just saying that's. I don't know if anybody else has been through that, but you'll have to let me know if you stayed there. Tourists creeping through your windows. Our street is almost 200 years old. Very picturesque, so it attracts tourists in our city. There have been more than a few times when I've come upstairs from the garden level kitchen living room to the street level first floor to find that if I haven't closed the curtains, tourists will be peeking in, trying to see what the interior looks like. It's annoying and kind of creepy, but I'm used to it. One night I came upstairs to go to bed to find some guy standing in front of our window. Our windows are the original casings, so they've got heavy wooden interior shutters we close at night. I closed one side because screw that. I don't care if you want to see in our upstairs living room. I'm tired. I went to the other and he just gave me this furious look, like his face just twisted into so much anger that it stopped me in my tracks. We stared at each other down for a few minutes before he gave me this big, creepy, leering smile and walked slowly down the street. I think I woke up and checked our deadbolt and chain like 8 times throughout the course of that night. Yeah, like what kind of person thinks you're just going to go to another country and stare in someone else's windows? Personally, I feel like that's a money making moment there to have people come tour your very beautiful home for an enormous amount of money because you don't get to look at that for free. Don't give it away for free. Nothing. You want to look at that? You could pay for it. You want to touch that? You pay for it. End of story, always. Eerie violin music at 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, this is in his living room? I feel like I've read that before. Syringes in the floorboards. So, when we first moved in, we found a bunch of drugs and syringes hidden in a hole in the floorboards of a closet in one of the bedrooms. One night, after months of us living there, my dad heard a noise downstairs. So he went down assuming it was me. It was not. I, like the rest of my family, was sound asleep. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. He got downstairs and found a young, wasted woman passed out on our couch. My dad had to go wake my mom up so my mom could wake the girl up so she would feel less threatened. When she woke up, she was a slurring mess. Apparently, she had lived in the house before we moved in and had a key. While drunk, she forgot that she didn't live there anymore and thought she was just going home. She called someone to come pick her up, and we never saw her again. We had really shady landlords who told us that they had changed the locks before we moved in. They apparently lied. Wow. This one is weird. Our old apartment got broken into. We think it was the Brady kids that lived next door because nothing was taken. And our TV remotes were left in the hall. Still, it didn't feel like home after that. Yeah, it doesn't. Like, even if somebody, kids harmlessly come in, I mean, you don't know who's in your house doing that anyway, if they're never caught. The police never took a report when they did mine, too, because they said there was nothing they could do. Like, it was the laziest cop ever that came out and did that. He made no attempt to make any kind of paperwork trail or nothing to put my mind at ease. Nothing. Finding needles isn't the worst thing in the world. Well, it would be if you accidentally jabbed your hand into it. Yeah. Because you don't know what's been on the other side of that needle. Let's see here. Claws, scrabbling, and blood on the roof is the name of this next one. It looks like an alien one just by glancing at it. So, I live in a 16-foot camper. Before the rest of my family moved in here, this was my research vehicle. I researched the history of human habitation in Colorado. So, this camper has been everywhere. I've been to the harsh southeastern canyonlands, stepped out the door in the morning to find a herd of wild horses in the northwest, and endured severe storms on the short grass prairie. For a while, I took it to the south, to the U.S. Mexico border, and lived on the grounds of a museum and battle site in the Oh, I'm gonna butcher that word. It's a Chihuahua Desert. Is that a real place? I can't be saying that right. I had been there for quite a bit, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I heard and felt an impact on my roof just over my bed. Uh, and claws. Big claws. I've seen Jeepers Creepers. I know how this works. Anyway, I just laid there, petrified, listening to something very big attempt to peel my camper like a tin can. About an hour later, it went away. In the morning, I did snake patrol. Just before winter, a lot of rattlesnakes, lizards tried to move into the museum, and when I looked at my camper, I saw blood on the roof and scratches. The smaller critters of the desert took care of a lot of whatever it was, so I didn't have to wash much off by the time I finished snake patrol. So I went to bed that night and the next without worrying much about my imminent demise. A couple of nights later, it happened again. 2 a.m., thunk, claws, scrabbling. This thing spans the entire width of my camper. Me. Claws scrabbling again. Me terrified. This thing goes away an hour later. Blood on my camper roof. The next night, thunk, claws, my camper roof being pummeled. Weird sounds. And then thunk. On the other end of my camper, claws. Claws coming closer to the roof over my head. I ran out the door frantically unlocking my truck. And from the safety of my truck, I looked back at my camper. The male owl looked on from my roof as a female owl devoured his furry, very dead offering. He lived in the water tower. She lived just across the border near a feedlot. My camper roof was the only patch of white within plain view of her community. He'd been demonstrating his ability to hunt and kill for a week, bringing half-dead prey to the roof, letting it escape over and over and pinning it down over and over. Finally, on this night, he wooed her. It was so sweet, I never minded cleaning up the blood after that. It only lasted another week, and then I saw them together at the water tower. Oh my gosh. What? What? Did anyone guess owls? Okay, I rolled apart my cup. Okay. We called the cops. They took a report, but since nothing was taken, there wasn't anything for them to do. We moved it. See, that's fun. My door was like broken into. They took tons of stuff. They were getting ready to take more things, but somebody must have scared them off. This guy didn't do anything. Didn't attempt to, like, he just didn't want to do nothing. I've heard this other one. The owl one, have I read it before? It feels like maybe I did. Ooh. Let's see here. Did anything else load on this one? What was this one? Morticians reveal the strangest and most mysterious cases they've ever worked on. I don't know. Hold on here. Bone chilling thing they ever. Oh, God. No, that one looks like too rough. Well, just a heads up, my battery's at 26%. I don't know how much longer I'm going to read. Oh, the owl one? You've heard that one? Yeah, I'm thinking I might have read that on my channel, but a long, long time ago. Like, super long time ago. I think this will be our last set. Let's see how this goes. This is barbers. Oh, this one's gonna be gross. Barbers and hairdressers tell their customer horror stories. Ooh, buckle up. First one, pus buildup. Oh my gosh. If you're eating a snack, you might want to put it down at this point. My husband is a barber. One day he had a guy come in with dreads, wanting them all shaved off. He parted his dreads, looked at his scalp, and noticed it was green. He touched it and saw it ripple. He asked the guy when he'd last washed his hair, and he said about 3 years ago. My husband realized that the guy's entire scalp was covered in a layer of pus. He sent him to the emergency room to have it drained and treated with antibiotics. Oh, 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 you are? I'm on a lot of scary story channels. Mm. I told my husband, was it yesterday? I'm like, I bet if I gave him the same stories that I read and I started a channel for him like next week, he would get more followers than me in a couple of months than I have in like years. Just because I think I'm not pretty bad. Okay. Good night, Tank. Yeah, we're in our last stretch here. These are pretty gross, so we're probably gonna laugh our way into the wee hours of Halloween morning at this point. So this one's called rotting hair nails. So if you're eating candy, you might want to put it down. When I was in school, I had a lady come in who wanted a cut and a manicure. I loved those appointments because they blocked a good amount of time and were fairly easy. First off, I've been around smokers my entire life, but this woman reeked of cigarettes. It was like she smoked them in her car, house, all the windows rolled up, couldn't even understand how she could have that strong of a cigarette odor permeating off of her. I get her draped and start asking her what she's looking for. I start to run my fingers through her bleach blonde hair to see what I'm dealing with here, and a piece of her hair just falls off in my hand. At this point, I have a look of horror on my face and start mumbling something along the lines of, "Your hair, I'm so sorry." And she very calmly says, "Oh, a chunk fell out? That happens sometimes, it's fine." I politely tell her that she might want to get that checked out. So I go to get her shampoo and conditioner, take her to the bowl, turn on the water, and her hair turned to bleach blonde mush. Other stylists know what I mean. And has now made the whole salon reek of wet dog cigarette. I used about a cup of conditioner on her hair. It was the most rough haircut I've ever done, and it was a very simple bob. The manicure was even worse. She had coat upon coat of nail polish upon all of her fingers. I let them soak, then took them out. I took my wooden dowel and tried chipping some of the polish off. Cue my horror when the wooden dowel sank into her fingernail. The stench coming from it I will never forget. Like a mix of rotting corpse and durian fruit. I alerted my teacher, who told her she probably had a nail fungus and that she needed to go to the doctor. She put me in dispensary for the rest of the day. Oh. Oh. Blah. Oh my God. Oh, hey, Ruth. On my way back when beehive hair was a thing, my friend had a girl taken to nurse as scratched her hair with knitting needle constantly. Nurse said it was full of maggots. Oh. 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 Like how long could you leave your hair in that beehive hairstyle? How how does someone sleep like that? I'm just out of curiosity, even if it doesn't have maggots in it. How do you sleep with that on your head? It just sounds so uncomfortable. Sure, it's a time saver, but Oh my god. Oh. Oh. Oh my god. Blah. Ew. Ugh. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. What's ironic? The next story is called Beehive Hairdo Full of Insects. No way. No way. The coincidence is ironic. It says my mother was a hairdresser in the 1960s for Vidal Sassoon. During the time of the beehive, customer wouldn't wash their hair for weeks. They just kept spraying it to keep it in place as it was such a complicated thing to do. This meant a lot of fleas, lice, and on one occasion, cockroaches that had to be washed out. For some reason, this never bothered my mother that much, but hearing about it made me sure I never, ever wanted any kind of hands on customer service job. Oh my. Oh, oh. Ugh. They used to put so much spray in them, their hairdos, and leave them for weeks. Like, how? Durian fruit? Ugh. Ugh. Jesus, these are gross. This one says scabies. My sister is a hairstylist and got scabies once from a kid. Apparently, the mom knew the kid had it. She just didn't tell my sister until they were leaving. Oh no. That is gonna be hard to get rid of, I think. I don't know. I don't know. Hmm. Oh. Ooh. This one says drenched in grease. So, if you had all that Halloween candy sitting around and you really can't kick the habit of your strong appetite for it, this set of stories should get rid of that desire. Good old 60s beer have cockroaches. Just how? Like how could you stand it? Like your head would be so itchy. Just the hairspray alone's making my head. Ooh. Just the thought about that hairspray, yuck. Sounds so uncomfortable. This one says drenched in grease. When I was assistant at my first salon right out of school, we had classes every Wednesday night. Well, one week I couldn't find a model in time, so my mentor had someone she knew come in and be my model. So the model comes in, seems perfectly normal. I start the consultation and start looking through her hair to see what I need to do. Apparently, this young lady had not washed her hair in what I'm assuming was weeks, because her hair was so greasy that every time I touched her hair, my hand came back drenched in grease. And the smell. I'll never forget that smell. It was the worst thing I've ever had the displeasure of working with. I asked my mentor if I could shampoo her before starting and was told I couldn't. So here I am, working on the girl who almost literally has grease dripping from her hair. I must have washed my hands 10 times that night, needless to say. I had my own model for every class after that one. Yeah. Sounds like your teacher was punishing you. That's what it sounds like. Fun fact, mange on animals, scabies is the human version of that. Oh. This went south very fast. Are we too grossed out for these ones? Dun dun dun. Let me see here. I'm trying to see if I have a different set of stories that would be. Well, there's this one. This set of stories says people describe the most bone chilling things they've ever witnessed. This one's really bad, so I don't know if this neighbor saw a man die in a gruesome chainsaw accident. I was watching this as an interested neighbor. Tree fell in my neighbor's yard down a steep hill. It was a huge tree, 5 feet wide by 70 feet tall. Crane was pulling up on a piece of it while a grunt worker was chainsawing the piece by pulling by the crane to separate it. Well, the crane cable tension was tight on that piece he was cutting. So when the worker cut through enough of it, the cable ripped half of it up the hill, and the worker's chainsaw went straight up into his head. I'll never forget him trying to walk a few steps and pull it out before he fell over dead with the chainsaw still humming away. What? I have to say, I have to wash my hair every day, second day. Oh, this security guard saw two murderers stash a gun. I used to do security and would catch a lot of young people having sex in cars in our parking lot. I watched a couple coming running across the street and duck behind a storage unit we had, figuring it was just kids going to have sex. I decided to do what I always do and scare the crap out of them. As I walked to the door to go out, I stop and decide to put the cameras on where I'll be so I can put it on the bloopers folder. The 30 seconds it took to do it probably saved my life. They weren't having sex. They had just committed murder and were ditching their gun. If I had gone out when I originally planned, I probably would have been killed as well. Even scarier than that is that the police didn't really look for the gun. I found it for them because they didn't look under some of the trash bins behind the storage unit. That was the second murder weapon I found for the police in 6 months. Yikes. Oh, I'm also old. So is Dutch. We might be the same age. How rude. Horrible that would be a scene that would cause PTSD, the chainsaw one. Yeah. Like, let's see. This kid almost slipped out of his harness on a roller coaster. When I was around 8, I got on a roller coaster at Six Flags in Houston. It had those foam covered bars that lock on your shoulders and, and a small seat to sit on, but the feet dangled. About a minute into the ride, it starts twisting. I slip halfway out of the seat and almost out of the seatbelt that was supposed to be checked for security beforehand, but it wasn't tight enough. I spent the entire ride digging my little nails into the foam padding on the shoulder bars while the edge of the seat was digging into my back. My mom was sitting next to me and noticed what was happening. And all she could do was reach. All she could reach was my shirt and held onto that for the entire ride. I haven't been on a coaster since. That is, isn't that everyone's fear about getting on a roller coaster? I'm a Gen Xer. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm not ashamed of it. It's just kind of, a thing. Anyways, this vet heard the most tragic screams ever. Oh no, I don't want that's about a dog. Nope. All right, this patroller heard demonic gibberish on his radio. I've never seen The Godfather. I can say I have the horse head scene, though, that was a bit traumatic. My fear about getting on a roller coaster is having it get stuck. Only if it's stuck upside down. Plus, I've seen, what the heck is the movie called? Destination? No. Oh my gosh, my brain it's stuck. You know the one. You know the one. The logs on the truck. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Destination Fear? No. Final Destination. Why did I think it was Destination Fear? Yep. Gen Xers don't age. Just in case, I'm just asking. Does your older brother and sister have wrinkles or gray hair? People born in 1982 are in fact millennials. I've never been on a roller coaster, but want to. There's an amusement park nearby that has one. I want to go there. Can you guys hear my husband snoring? Nothing is more scarier than hearing a toy run out of batteries over the baby monitor. Did that just happen to you? No, what can be scary is when you go to check on your kid in the middle of the night and from their toy box you hear a tiny little voice, but it's because that toy didn't get turned off or doesn't have an off button and something's pressing on it in the toy box. But yeah, when they're running low on batteries, they start going off on their own in the middle of the night, and that's terrifying. 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 This patroller heard demonic gibberish on his radio. Creepiest moment. Patrolling an empty warehouse, and my radio goes off, and it's like a sort of demonic gibberish, and the lights shut off. And I remember thinking, oh, fuck no, I'm not being in a horror movie tonight. Beelined for the door. Would have had to leave anyway to use my phone to call in the power outage. Later, figured it was probably an electrical issue of some sort, causing radio interference and a power outage. Worked alone during those hours, so not a prank from someone else. Yikes. But it probably was. Like, oh, you haven't seen them in years? I'm sorry. I hear dog on channel farting regularly, so the channel owner claims. Oh, because I said my husband's snoring. My dog's looking at me like she needs to go outside. My husband's snoring so loud. Let's see here. We'll do a couple more and then we're going to call it a night because my dog's staring at me and she clearly needs to go outside. Let's see. Let's travel to the kitchen. They claimed it was their dog. My dog farts, but you can't hear her. We just know it because we'll smell it all of a sudden as we look at each other, accuse each other, and then realize it was the dog. It doesn't happen all the time, though, so. Come on, honey. Hey, oh, when you walk on this floor, sometimes you can hear every step. I don't know why I'm being quiet. My legs are like half dead to the world because I've been sitting on the bed for the last 3 hours. Oh my gosh. It's been raining here for days. Not recently, but it happened when my kids were little. My oldest had this crazy cow toy that laughed, and it was in his crib one night. And laughed demonically because the batteries. Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Your son stayed asleep? How do you manage to sleep? I cannot take snoring. It drives me crazy and keeps me awake. Yeah, everyone over 24 is too old to matter. The young adult genre craze was all about. Mm-hmm. Each generation has like, what is it, a decade in there? So it's like a ticking clock. Yeah, it's wet here. It's almost November, so that's pretty typical here. It'll be wet until what? April, because it's gonna go right into snowy season soon. Awful. Oh yeah, the snoring thing. Sometimes I've recorded him snoring before. Actually, I think all the kids have also recorded him snoring before because sometimes he can snore so loud that it's unbelievable how loud it is. 20 years is a generation. It is? Well, that's a big gap. No, is it really? That seems long. My oldest is like my hubby. Can sleep through a nuclear bomb going off. Even when he was a baby, he slept. Wow. Yeah, my husband can sleep through anything. If there was a house fire, I'd be the one getting everyone out. For sure. For sure. Let's see here. Uh, we'll read like these next couple ones and then we're going to call it a night. You hear him snoring? I'm just curious if you guys can hear it. What do you do for fun when it's crazy snowstorms? You have to stay in all day. It's my favorite. I love it. Are you kidding me? That's the introvert's dream. Oh no, it's a pandemic. We have to stay inside. Oh no, there's a snowstorm. We have to stay inside. Same thing. It's awesome. I am someone that if I'm staring at the wall and I don't have like any device around me, and if you're like me, please chime in and let me know this. But if, let's say, my walls in my bedroom are pink, by the way. So if I'm staring at my pink wall, no devices on, my brain will just start thinking of everything and anything that's running through my mind. Like I've already thought about like, what are we going to do tomorrow? What did we do yesterday? Why is pink the color pink? Why is there a hole there? How did it come where people just hang stuff on their wall? Like my brain just goes around squirrel. Then I probably start making up a song to a sitcom I made up in my head. I'm always entertaining myself. Mr. Snorri Pants, I tell him all the time that I'm going to put a pillow on his face. You know, most of the time I can't hear it. And then, like, what I used to have to do is we'd go to bed at the same time and I'd have to wait. Like, I'd stay up until he goes into that, is it REM sleep? So, like, that stage of sleep where you're sleeping really hard. And then the snoring stops. But some nights he snores all night and I don't sleep well. Sometimes I don't hear it, but most of the time, if it's bad, I do. Yeah, he probably. There's been times like when he's snoring really bad, and it's not all the time. When like if I'm almost asleep and I hear it stop and then it starts again, if all of a sudden he's snoring really hard and I hear it stop, then I usually put my hand right on his back because that does freak me out. Hmm. Well, too bad I can't harness it in a way that financially benefits me. When I started my channel, I used to write all my own stories. Parker, that gamer. Hey, Parker, we've been streaming for about 3 hours. So we're about ready to wrap it up, but I'm glad you came. Happy Halloween. If you're just tuning in, my husband's snoring to the right of me. Well, usually, yeah, because I will scroll on YouTube and TikTok for hours because it takes me forever to fall asleep because of either my mind going crazy or that. So I can distract myself. But like if I don't feel good, you know what I mean? That it's harder to fall asleep because of like a pain agitates you. So if I'm in an agitated state and then I hear that, but anybody that has a snorer in their house knows exactly what I'm talking about. Thankfully, it doesn't do that to me at 3 o'clock in the morning. It just takes me hours to fall asleep. What about you guys? I am envious of anyone gonna just lay down and go to sleep. Like that's that's amazing. I would love to do that. If I could do that, it's because NyQuil was involved. He's laying on his side right now. Element. He's laying on his side right now. I was alone for a long time before I met my husband, and it took a long time to get used to having someone around. But when my husband went away for work, was it last week? It was only the second time that we had been apart in 12 So it was weird. But my stepson was here, so I wasn't in the home alone. You're that snorer? It's in my stomach. If I sleep on my back, I will almost for sure will snore and my breathing will cut off and wind up coughing and choking. Holy crap. That's scary. Oh, sorry, Lindsay. Yeah, and it's hard to get up the next day when you haven't slept well either. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right, let's see here. This one's titled This Survivor Almost Died During a Bank Robbery. I was in a bank robbery 6 years ago. By the way, can you hear me over the snoring? Just let me know if like I need to talk louder into the microphone. I was in a bank robbery 6 years ago. I still remember the horrible feeling of realizing that it wasn't a joke and it was actually happening. Two men with guns inside shouting, "Don't look! Don't move!" I remember feeling completely panicked and helpless. I've never felt so helpless, actually. I felt like time completely stopped while it was going on. It felt like I was standing there forever, hoping no one got hurt. I remember I could taste a metallic taste in my mouth, and the thoughts you have when you think you're going to get shot are quite odd. I still occasionally have terrible nightmares about being trapped somewhere with a gun. Being trapped somewhere with someone with a gun. Oh, yeah. My hubby can lay down and be out in 5 minutes. I need about 3 hours, 12 position changes, 4 bathroom breaks to sleep. Yep, same. Sometimes. But it doesn't happen to me all the time, so I figure I have apnea. I just sleep on my side and I don't need a CPAP. You're fine. Man, tall guy, that's concerning, though. That's concerning. There's an app that you can get for your phone, I think, where it will like record your breathing and stuff. And there's another thing. It's an owlet, but usually that's used for babies to make sure that their heart rate and respirations. They've made one for toddlers now, but I think there's probably adults that need it too. I think because of the snoring, this is the longest your husband has been on the stream. Ah. Sometimes this is a while ago, but like he went through a spot where he was having a hard time going to sleep. I don't know if something was just stressing him out. So I would just like talk to him about something and then he would fall asleep while I was talking to him about it and that helped him go to sleep. So I think that if he hears me talking, like if I listen to Be Busta, I've told you guys that makes me go right to sleep. I don't know what you guys listen to, but I can't listen to music. It wakes me up. So if I listen to Be Busta, I just go to sleep. So I think the same thing happens to him if he listens to me. It takes me at least an hour to fall asleep. Yeah. And I made it sound more dramatic than it is. I'm sleep on my back and I don't usually. Still, that's scary, man. It's scary. Let's see. Oh no. This grandpa drove inebriated and found a mangled tricycle stuck to his car. Story of my grandfather. I guess he used to drink a lot, like way too much. One night he hit the bar on the way home from work and then drove home after it closed. The next morning he goes to his car and there's a mangled tricycle somehow wedged in his grill and bumper. I guess my grandparents called the police and hospitals to see if he hit a kid. No reports, no blood on the car. Luckily, he hadn't hit anyone, just the tricycle. He never drank again. So, yeah, I'm thinking at 2 o'clock in the morning there's not going to be a kid outside on a tricycle, but I guess you never know. Yikes. When sleeping on your stomach, remember to switch where your head is turned, otherwise you will have neck pains. Yeah, and the breathing cutting off don't have happen all the time either, only when I'm on my back, but almost makes me feel like I'm drowning because I get woke up by breathing. Oh no. I forgot how to use the space bar. LOL. This patient felt cats crawling over her body, but no one believed her until a doctor had an allergic reaction. My father is a physician. He had been in practice for 30 years and has literally seen tens of thousands of patients. One day, a few years back, he goes to see a woman who has been admitted to the hospital the previous day for a serious lung condition. He enters her hospital room in the morning. The woman is heavily sedated, and there is a nurse fixing her bed and cleaning the room. Immediately upon entering, my father gets a severe allergic reaction. Feels he can barely breathe and tears start rolling from his eyes. The nurse stands and helps him back into the hallway. After Dad finally recovers and apologizes to the nurse, says, "That's so weird. That only happens when I get close to cats." The nurse goes white as a ghost. It turns out that the hospitalized woman had been awake all night screaming that cats were crawling all over her body and trying to scratch her eyes out. The hospital staff believed she was simply having a weird reaction to some medication. After hours of her terrified screaming, they were able to medicate her to sleep. There's probably a logical explanation for the entire situation, but I remember finding the account bone-chilling when I first heard the story. I'm thinking maybe she had cats at home and some of her personal belongings were in the room, but I guess I don't know. I never slept on my tummy. It makes my tummy feel squished and messes with my back. Before I had my daughter, I used to love to sleep on my stomach. So like after I had after you have a baby, there are like certain things you look forward to, like being able to have alcohol again, haha, wear regular clothes again. But I really couldn't wait to sleep on my stomach. But I had like emergency C-section and couldn't even wear like jeans for a long time afterwards. But I have never been able to sleep on my stomach again after that. I used to love it, but I have never been able to do it again. When I did a tracheotomy, the damn hole after removal would snore and wake me up. Oh, yes. How long does that take to heal up? I'm curious. I've never asked that question before, ever. I've never looked it up. I am curious. When I was a kid, I had this friend that would come over, but she would never stay the night because her mom had something happen to her in the middle of the night where she had to have one of those, and she was always afraid that if she stayed the night away from home, that her mom was going to pass away if she wasn't at home. So she would come, but she would always make her parents come and pick her up. So she would try to stay the night, but she just couldn't do it. She was always scared her mom was going to pass away. Let's see. This says angry dude with a crowbar. Uh-oh. This will be the last one because now my iPad's on 10%. I came into this fully charged. It wasn't too long to heal. That's good to know. Let's see here. So about a month ago, I was driving the speed limit. I usually go 5-10 miles over. But I had my infant godson and his mother in the car. This dude in a pickup passes me and cuts me off and slams on his brakes. I narrowly miss him and almost end up in the ditch. We're both turned around checking on the baby when we hear the truck door slam. He was walking over with a crowbar. I was able to speed up before he got to the car. He followed us for a while, but I was able to lose him in the neighborhood. What? He cut you off, so he gets out with a crowbar. The audacity. Man, I'm learning all kinds of stuff about you guys tonight. That sucks. I had to do that for a while. I have a bad stomach too. I just have to like stop eating really early in the night. I had it like forever. It's like a hereditary thing in my family too. Like my mom had stomach issues. My daughter, like, yeah. You levitate while sleeping? I think she said elevated, but if you levitate at sleeping, that's amazing. That's kudos to you. All right, this one will probably be the last one because I don't want to like be in the middle of reading and the iPad dies. This one says this former student watched books fall, but no one pushed the tomes. I was studying for finals back in undergrad days at the University of British Columbia's main library. Those of you who are familiar with UBC, this was before the renovations. Okay. Most students preferred the newer Coroner Library, but I liked the old one because it was quieter and the texts I needed were stored there. I recall going down to the lower level to search for a book. The main library's shelves were old-fashioned and tightly arranged to maximize space, sorry. The walk space between the shelves could barely fit two people standing side by side, and in most cases, you pretty much had to walk out if anybody wanted to move past you in the aisle. Man. In any case, I was browsing the stacks when I heard a book fall off a shelf in the aisle directly in front of me. I was certain of being the only person in that part of the library, but nevertheless chalked it up to somebody being careless. It didn't take long before I heard another book fall from the same location. I ignored it until a third book dropped on the ground, but this time it was almost right next to me. The book in question was big, about the size of an encyclopedia. I thought somebody was in the other aisle, inadvertently knocking stuff off the shelves by shoving books on the opposite side too far in. So I walked out from behind the aisle to see who was being a pest. Didn't see anyone, or hear anyone walk away. The floors were old hardwood and creaked in some places. Right as I was about to get back to my research, another book fell in the aisle. I remember calmly putting the book back on the shelf, picking up my stuff, and going back upstairs. Then hightail it out of the main library. Libraries are creepy, but I love them. I could literally live in a library. I would be like, yes. Mine is from my anxiety and stress. Been really bad the last 2 years. I literally have Gabs gone beside the bed. Tums don't work anymore. Yes, Zena, actually. Indeed. Well, we are now well into, I guess Elements. It's not Halloween yet where Elements at, right? Whoever's on the West Coast. But this is where we're going to call it a night because it's now 1:30 in the morning. I've been reading for 3 hours and 23 minutes. Starting to lose my voice and my iPad's going to die. But I'm really glad you guys came and really been like troopers. Your university's library was really creepy after midnight. I think the only thing creepy is I'd rather be in a creepy haunted library than be in a creepy library with a creepy person that you don't know after midnight. I know. My brain could just eat them all up. But on that note, we're going to say good night. I'm really glad you guys came. I hope you enjoyed it. 1.5 hours left. Ooh. There's probably a bunch of scary movies on too. Dun dun dun. All right. Good night. Good night, everybody that's here, everybody that's talking, and everyone that's not. Because I think that sometimes there's people that just come and listen because they don't want to chat. It's fine. It's totally fine. 5:30 a.m. here in the UK. Time to get up soon. Oh, hey. Time to go make some coffee. Have a good night, everyone. Happy Halloween. Be safe. And I will obviously be taking a short little break from YouTube. Not long. You'll at least have a video next Saturday. But, yeah. Just a short little break there. And you guys have a good night. Have a safe Halloween tomorrow. And I will see you guys very soon. Good night and happy Halloween. Bye. Bye. Thanks, Ruth. That's really nice. Thanks, Dog Guy. Good night. Good night, everyone. Don't sleep on your back. Good night.